Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. On this Wednesday afternoon, 365 Sports. And yes, this is the first week, of course, first full week of college football. Games tomorrow and through the weekend, all the way into past the weekend, too, and some bangers along the way. And so I was on today with WJOX in Birmingham, our good friend Pat Smith, three-man front. And they're pumped up. Auburn, they like what they have. They should. We'll have a note about one of their wide receivers here in a moment. It was nice. Pat Smith asked me to join them. You guys have all been a part of that. Craig's been on Cole Cubelic and many times, all of that. So it's a fun game. It's not a game where, okay, let's just play it and move on to the next one. And we'll talk about that, of course, today and throughout the rest of the week. 365 Sports, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. And here's a note from Oklahoma State. They have themselves a quarterback. Haas Haney, TCU transfer, is the season opening quarterback. Good battle with Zane Flores. Haney wins the job.
Yeah, this is not a surprise. I mean, they had Zane Flores last year, and they brought Haney in. Nobody's played that much at quarterback. I know that Zane played a little bit last year, but nobody's played that much at quarterback on that roster. We'll see. I mean, there is a lot of change, and it's hard to even kind of fathom what Oklahoma State's going to look like until we actually see them on the field, because it is a completely different team. And it's a season in which they've had to make, Mike Gundy has had to make more changes overall than he's ever had to make, and that he's under the gun a little bit for the first time in Stillwater.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a year where they have some pressure to win. So, he's a guy who's had a really nice long career, but I think it's obvious to say that they need to win some football games. And so a big part of that will be the quarterback play, and it seems like it was a highly competitive battle for us. Obviously, as well, a guy that has been around for a while, as you mentioned, but Haas Haney, super athletic dude, dual threat, watched him in high school a bit, was really impressed by him. Not necessarily like the biggest guy in the world. He's not small either, but he's not like some 6'4" type of player. He's more like a typical kind of Big 12 quarterback, if that makes sense. Kind of the guys we've seen over the years that are you're 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but real quick, can break off a run, but pass the ball really well. Haney, being a Kendall Browse guy, I feel like say what you want, but they know how to pick quarterbacks. I mean, they know what they're looking for, especially in this league. And so I think reuniting with somebody who clearly is on the same wavelength as him at OC there, Doug Meacham, I think that was part of the reason why many expected him to be the pick all along. But, not surprised to see this. Sounds like it was a pretty competitive quarterback battle. Watched a video with Mike Gundy last night, and I don't think he knows any more than we do, quite frankly, about his football team. He's excited about the season starting like all coaches are. He's optimistic about what they have, but he's definitely not going out there and saying like a Scott Satterfield of like, you just wait, or y'all have no idea what's coming kind of a thing. I think he's just as up in the air as far as how they're going to perform as anybody. So take that how you want to take that, but I take that as like, yeah, they could surprise some people, but there's a very good chance they're just not that good this year, and this is going to be kind of a, I don't know if it's a rebuild, but just kind of a remixing to get back to where they want to be. But I'm excited to see Haas Haney in action and what he can do to contribute to that.
Smoky, what's the thing you always told me about school boards and high school coaches? Like how many, like every time a board member changes, you lose 10% of your support or something like that?
No, every time somebody on the board, if you lose the superintendent, it's all bets are off. But if you lose, every time you lose, I think there's 7 board members or whatever. Every time you lose a board member, you lose about 15% of your support.
Yeah. So think about that amplified to somebody you're paying 7 figures to. And so a lot of the people, it's been 20 years that he's been the head coach there, right? So a lot of the people that were on the board that hired him, that loved Mike Gundy, old school Mike Gundy, now are just wanting to see results because they just see all this money they're paying him, and they see college football changing, and they don't really have any emotional attachment like some of the other people did. So that's changed. He got in a tussle with the powers that be at the end of last season, and there was about 24 hours where it looked like, okay, I mean, they're going to fire him, right? I mean, you don't really come back from this. And then they did come back from it. So we'll see. It's different now than it has been in the past for him. He's never really had the microscope on him like this before.
Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't seem like it's super contentious, though. It's not like it has been in the past when it's been like, we're going to fire you because we don't like you, right? I think it's more of like, where is this all going, and is the program heading in the right direction? But I also think it's a very weird time that I'm not sure Oklahoma State has the ability to say, like, we demand more. We're letting you go, buying your contract out, and we're going to go hire whoever is the next big thing. I don't know where Oklahoma State is in the process of being able to do something like that. So, yeah, ideally you'd not have to do all that, and you get to stick with the guy who you've been sticking with for a long time and has had proven success. But, yeah, there's just a lot of questions about Oklahoma State. They could very well be a team that surprises a lot of people because not much is expected of them. I don't think that they're going to be good enough to surprise people to the point of, like, showing up as Arizona State did last year. I don't think that's realistic at all. Especially after listening to him, I don't think he would tell you that that's probably realistic, but we'll see. I mean, they're going to roll out there and play ball and see where the chips may land. I think Haney's a super athletic, fun guy to watch. I'm very curious about just the arm talent and how much he's going to be able to, like, throw them to victory, because I think he can run around and make some plays happen for you, but I don't know if he can pick apart a defense throwing the football. So if you make him one-dimensional, is that going to be like a quagmire all of a sudden where you're stuck and you're sitting there with a running quarterback that can't do much more than that? That's going to be up to Hoss Haney to try to unlock that part of his game. And look, who better than Doug Meacham and Mike Gundy to sit there and try to do that? So I'm excited to see what they've been able to cook up this offseason. And, hey, if Haney's not good, Flores is right there. So that's still going to be an option for them throughout this season as well.
Did not throw a pass in college. Ran 15 times for 65 yards. He does have the ability to move. He was a phenomenal quarterback at Aledo High School, won a couple of state titles. They've won 12 at Aledo. He was a part of a couple of them. Never put up stupid numbers, but they also had great run. Aledo's the all-time winningest state championship program in history in Texas.
They always have a running back who plays at A&M or Texas
or Alabama or somewhere.
Alabama. I mean,
they're loaded. So he was really, really good. Had committed to play at Duke, flipped back to TCU, and now he will start day one, game one for Oklahoma State. Good for him. Hopefully he's got one of those guys that gives him a little spark that they obviously need, but they need a lot of that after what happened last year. Dylan Edwards, I just thought that he was going to be fine. He is going to miss the game against North Dakota, and then probably there's a chance he doesn't play against Army in week 3. Appeared to injure the left ankle early in the game against Iowa State, had the muff punt, and it all went downhill from there.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig. Yeah.
What an elaborate way to fake an injury. Now you're skipping games to really double down. No, I mean, obviously he's injured. So for anybody who doubted that last week, I mean, you probably don't feel bad about it, but you might should. But I think this clearly shows you that there wasn't anything nefarious going on last week for those looking for a reason to be upset or who truly believe that. The whole situation, just the whole weekend, as far as once the game started and finished, was weird for Kansas State, and this was part of that. So that's really unfortunate. I mean, they're starting off on a sour note for sure. They should be able to go and get a win this weekend, and that'll help the appetite a little bit. But, yeah, you need to have Dylan Edwards. You need to have him healthy. I think not having him against Iowa State definitely hurts you, and you know he was going to be a big part of that game plan, and then all of a sudden you've got other guys, but he's the guy. And so to not have him in the backfield with Avery Johnson the entire game practically on offense, that was a curveball you weren't expecting to be thrown, and you did your best with it. But had he been out there, maybe things are different for Kansas State offensively and on the scoreboard at the end of the game. So they need him, get him healthy for Big 12 play, and get him rested up. But clearly the conspiracies were incorrect as far as the injury goes, because he's hurt enough to not only be missing another game, but maybe missing a couple more games.
Well, Eric Singleton, Auburn's talented wide receiver, in a tandem with, of course, All-American Cam Coleman. It appears he's going to be good to go. The report, Mike Gundy, with Hugh Freeze, I think he's going to play He's not 100%, but getting better every day. And there's still a couple of days left of treatment between now and the game on Friday in Waco. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that this is it's kind of a fun build-up for this game, and it's SEC at Baylor, their best non-conference game since they moved into McLean Stadium, and even 8 to 10 years prior to that as well. But I do know this. To me, this is Dave Aranda and his defense. Matthew Pallard's the secondaries coach. And can they somehow be around when the ball's thrown to a receiver? It's not to criticize them. That's kind of what happened with LSU last year in the bowl game. And do they have the ability to maybe force Jackson Arnold into a mistake? They do have some guys who can get to the quarterback. Auburn's got that big, healthy, long, big, experienced offensive line. So this is going to be fun. But this is one guy, along with Coleman, that Baylor will have their target on them. And they're both they're a handful, no question.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. And I think this is the key matchup. Look, Baylor's biggest problem on defense last year was the secondary. I think that it has probably been upgraded. I think they're going to be better. I think that, if you read the Ross Dellinger article, you've heard Dave Aranda talking about moving things around and all that. I think that's all great. But that's going to be the big matchup is Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton versus that secondary. And of course, obviously Jackson Arnold. But I think that that's the big matchup for Baylor is if they can contain those two receivers, then they can control this game, I think.
Yeah, I will slightly disagree. I think they got to control the run game to really control the receivers in this game. I don't think Auburn's going to come out and just start throwing deep balls to Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton. I think they're going to try to run the football and then hit Baylor like as is commonplace. I just don't see them coming out and just air raiding it up and they're just throwing it left and right. I think it's going to come down to, can Baylor stop the run enough to not get hurt by those pass plays that get interspersed in, if that makes sense. I think Auburn is a really good team that is a very hungry team and facing a lot of pressure, but I think you could say all the same things about Baylor. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, the receivers are the concern just because the big concern for Baylor last year was that secondary, and they've got new players that they've brought in through the portal. But yeah, it's totally unproven until we see it out there in action. And to have Coleman and Singleton for starters, not to mention the rest of the guys, but those two super talents, that's going to be a massive challenge, even if they're not all fully 100%. But I don't foresee them having like dueling 100-yard wide receivers and something like that. But that's something I think you got to be worried about if you're Baylor fans out there. And that's the one, I think, part of this game that you've heard from pretty much every single review is, can Baylor secondary stop Auburn's wide receivers? I just think it's going to be a little bit more complex than that. It's going to be like, what can the Baylor defense force Auburn into having to do, or what can they take away by their coverages? And as Dave Aranda said, it's not they're going to be playing these guys one-on-one. Like, they're going to give them a lot of different looks. We'll see if it works or not. But yeah, this is a major challenge for sure. I don't think it's just a given that they're going to get torched, but there is that concern, and that concern is valid.
Yeah, and then what I did, while you were talking about the possibility of a couple 100-yard receivers, I just went back and looked at the box score. LSU beating Baylor 44-31. They had two receivers over 100 yards, and that's probably in my head with Hilton and then Aaron Anderson and 300 yards passing. But again, Sawyer Robertson threw for 445 in the loss to Auburn.
And Jackson Arnold's not Garrett Nussmeier, But no. How much improved is he? That's another one of those big questions in this game. I think Sawyer Robertson's the better quarterback in this game. At least as of right now on paper, that rings true without a debate. But will he be by the end of this year? We'll see. That's part of the other excitement and various storylines that are ongoing. But Auburn has a couple dudes. Baylor's got a lot of guys. Can they position those guys and utilize those guys enough to take that away and not make that just a glaringly obvious hole in the defense? And if it is, like, that could get really ugly really quickly. So yeah, that's a major concern. That'll not all be in their hands, because some of it will be in Jackson Arnold's hands. It'll be in Auburn's O-line's hands. But this secondary is going to get tested, and I don't know that they're going to come across a lot of opponents where they're hitting two big wide receivers, not to mention the rest of the depth, but those two guys in particular. I don't know how many teams are going to come across that have those types of talents.
Remember the story yesterday at Colorado with Ralphie being put out to pasture, right? John Wilner with the little sarcasm. Colorado had an indifference to running last year, too, averaged 65 yards per game last in the FBS when it came to Ralphie no longer just wanting to make that run. And John Wilner's got a sarcasm to him. Well, we've really gotten to know him well. We didn't always quite understand him, but we've gotten to know him well. But I thought that was nothing against Colorado, but I thought that was a nice quip.
No, you should never have to apologize for a good joke. That's
there
true.
You go.
If the joke is true and it's based completely in fact, yes, I think this is for Colorado. The key on is Caden Salter going to be as effective as you need him to be? Is he going to be better because he doesn't have that offense in him at second nature like Shedeur did? And their playmakers on the outside, while good, I think won't be quite as electric. And I'm not just talking about Travis Hunter. I think Jimmy Horn and Will Shepard and LaJohntay Wester were as good of a 4 wide receiver depth as anybody in the entire nation last year, 1 to 4, and all 4 of them are gone. So they've had to replace all those guys in the quarterback. So I think the running game needs to be way, way, way better because I'm not sure. And look, Caden Salter's a good quarterback, but he's always had a pretty decent running game at Liberty. He's always, had those things behind him. If they throw him out there and say, hey, go be Shedeur, that's not really fair to him.
Well, he's also not Shedeur. He's much, much better runner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't sat there and broken down their passing games and arm strengths and things like that. I'll defer to the Colorado folks who have done that this offseason. But Salter's very experienced. He's played in a lot of games, and I think he's going to be pretty damn good for them. I don't think he has to be Shedeur or be like Shedeur. I think he can win in his own different, unique type of a way where he is more of a running threat, and that opens things up to have more running threats around him versus the complete lack of for the last couple of years that we saw in Colorado's offense. I also think that wide receiver is one of the positions that is much of a great cast that you just mentioned that they're losing, including the Heisman Trophy winner. I think they feel really good about Draylon Miller and Amarion Miller. I think they're excited about those guys, and I think that's one of those positions almost like cornerback where I don't believe you have as many concerns about whether the talent's going to be there or not. I think they've continued to build up their offensive line, and so they're going to call games differently, and that's going to be interesting because they didn't have to call running plays, and they did not call running plays or refused to call running plays a lot the last couple of years. But I think that, especially starting with the quarterback, is going to be a big part of what they do, and Salter can sling it around as well. So I see a lot of there's a segment of the Colorado fandom where, if you're not, it's almost like political, where if you're not team this, then you're a hater and you're this and you're that and you're fake news and everything else. But there's a lot of people on the Colorado, whatever side or the /Deion side that believe they're going to be just as good, if not better. I think they maybe have better talent than people are anticipating. I don't know that I put them in the Big 12 title mix, but I do think they can be a team that makes more noise than they're maybe getting this offseason and could be a bit better despite the loss of a Travis Hunter and a Shedeur Sanders than people anticipate.
All right. How about this? This is we told you about Baylor. They're going to have chrome helmets. And then also they released this video because they're going to honor a fallen teammate, Alex Foster. We mentioned him, who was murdered. And then also because of even another decal on their helmet, you're going to roll that if you want, with the flooding that occurred down in the Central Texas area in Kerrville. Here's that video. Yeah, you can just run that while I was talking about it. But there's the chrome helmet, the gold chrome, and there we go. And then there's the number for Alex Foster, and then the decal with the state of Texas.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah,
They'll look great with the All Blacks, the blackout uniforms. It'll look nice. It'll be a new version of the old school stuff.
I think it's a nice touch to honor those guys and to honor the victims down in Central Texas. That's nice and thoughtful, and I'm sure there's a lot of stickers we'll be seeing across the country of various things we're probably not even aware of. So somebody will be watching that game going, what's that about? And they'll learn about the heinous murder of Alex Foster and just the senselessness of that. And then, the horror that was the floods down here in Texas gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the camp.
Camp Mystic.
Camp Mystic in
Mystic.
particular, and I know that's all still being sorted out as well. But that was horrific for those maybe in another part of the country that just, you see headlines, you're not associated with it, so you don't pay as close of attention. But man, horrific only begins to describe it. So a couple of major tragedies, and I'm glad they're acknowledging those.
Mac Brown, when he was on with us last week, his emotions, he was at that vigil, memorial, and the emotions from being there and what he, of course, told us at the time. T. Boone Pickens, Oklahoma State. We mentioned Haas Haney. They have renovated part of their stadium. Everybody's tweaking their stadium, it seems like, a little bit. And here's a video from what they now have field suites. I'd never seen these before until I started seeing them. Yeah, so you have a chance basically at field level, sometimes even slightly below that. The Cowboys started doing that when they built AT&T Stadium. That's a pretty good look. Otherwise, it's just like wall, turf, whatever. And so Oklahoma State now has those available in yet another way to make some money and revenue and give people a chance to watch it from a different area, but really close to the action. I wonder what those views are like, because so many other people are on the field in front of you.
Well, I've been in the Cowboys field level suites at AT&T Stadium, and they're just on the like random. I've not sat in one during a game. I've just been in them because we were Big 12 media days, and they had access. And I just thought I'm going to go in one of these because I've always wondered what it looks like.
Yeah,
and it's below theirs kind of sinks in. So you're below the sideline. So depending on where you are, you're pretty much looking up and watching it. It's more of oh, look, there's Dak. He's right there. That's more of the
it's a view from like you were laying down on the ground.
You're still kind of looking up. You're not really.
Oh, look, there's Dak's butt.
That
kind of thing. Yeah. But there's hundreds of people, it seems like, on the sidelines for games. They're trying to clear that up a little bit. But it just seemed like you would not have a very good view. But I'm sure you have one. And it's also pretty unique to be that close to the action.
Well, I'm sure there's a TV inside as well. You just pop in and a mini fridge and whatever the hell else. I'm not rich enough to understand and know, but I just assume that it's like most suites anywhere else. And so, if the seats weren't good, people wouldn't pay the money that they are paying to get those. So I'd imagine there's not too much of an obstructed view. Otherwise, what would be the point of it all? So, those look like they'd be a fun place to watch a game. I'm more partial to kind of being a little bit higher, but I'd give that a chance and probably thoroughly enjoy it. And you see everybody putting things like that in for a reason. So it's become another one of those money makers and one of those copycat types of things all across sporting events is more suites and things like that. And the field views are especially popular right now. So that's cool for whoever's going to be able to enjoy that out in Stillwater.
Super chat. Diesel. Good to hear from you. $4.99. The SEC went to 3 protected rivals. Do you think the Big 12 would adopt the system? Who would be Baylor's 3 protected rivals?
The difference is the SEC's added 4 teams or 2 teams recently. And then if you want to go back to A&M and Mizzou a decade ago, they have it's a little easier for them because they have longer history in the protected rivals. Really, it's pretty easy to figure out who the top 2 would be, especially when we had Pat Smith on last week. We talked about he told us about the tiers of how they kind of do it. But look, if you're Texas, that Oklahoma and A&M are going to be your 2, right? That, so it's easy for the Big 12. It's a little tougher considering that, half the league is all new to it. So you'd have the protected rivals of maybe those who came over. I mean, for me, I would just like to see the Texas schools be Baylor's protected rivals.
TCU, Texas Tech, and Houston. Those 3.
That's what I would like to see in the same, all the way around. But I don't know how that works in the math of it all.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to also just do where it's 3. Just because the SEC did 3, it's not like it's the magic number that's the only way that you can do that. What if you could do a couple of protected rivalries? Maybe that would make more sense. There's a lot of teams that you talk about the SEC not having certain history when it comes to Oklahoma finding a third opponent. Well, good luck in trying to get some history between all the teams the Big 12's thrown together over the last 5 years. I mean, they're from all over the place. There's some history like Utah. Hey, BYU, Arizona State. There's their 3. Like, that would be easy, and I think it would probably be easy to do it. I don't know, though, if it's just as simple as the SEC did it and it works for them, so now everybody does the same thing and we all do the same thing. I don't know if it'll be like that. I mean, this is a league that's hesitant to give Farmageddon even its name that we all call it, much less make it a protected rivalry. So why now would they go and make it 3 protected rivalries?
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to go that route, but I appreciate the question, Diesel. I just don't know if they'll go copy for copy like that, but if they were to, then for Baylor, since you asked about them, TCU and Tech would be the easy answers. And then I think you'd have people debate on whether they would rather see Houston or Oklahoma State, but that would depend on who you're talking to. I think just to make it Houston would make a ton of sense. You got 4 teams, they can all play each other, but does that take away any other games? I wouldn't think that it does. Like even TCU, Utah, I mean, that's all history that's very much in the past. So I think the Texas teams, that would work pretty okay. But then it's a matter of, like, does Iowa State have
Iowa State, Kansas State would have to be tied in together.
Right.
But then who's the third? Would it be Oklahoma?
It's like West
State?
Virginia.
Yeah.
Oklahoma is like, you could do it maybe the Big 8 schools, the Southwest Conference schools.
I think
well, we've kind of already
Pac-12,
done this because
yeah.
we all did this during the entire saga of the whole deal, and it was like, hey, there's the Texas pod and here's the out west pod. We already did this. We talked about this last year, and so that was the way that you could go. But there was this Cincy, West Virginia, UCF, and then it was like
BYU would have to be a part of that, right?
Well, yeah. Then I mean, that's the thing is like there wasn't a super clean cut, obvious way to do it, doing the 4 pods, because there's one that's always a little bit wonky. But yeah, the Pac schools are. That's easy. The Texas schools, that's easy. It's the other 8 that aren't exactly geographically perfect, but sometimes you have to make history as well. So I don't think they'll go the 3 guaranteed route necessarily, but if they did, I think some of them would be pretty simple, and then some you'd have a weird arrangement like Cincy and BYU are together for some reason.
Yeah. Grayson, go ahead. Grayson Goodush is an interesting note about this we're talking about.
Yeah, what I would call that is the South Carolina problem is that when you look at South Carolina – before A&M and Mizzou, South Carolina and Arkansas are the ones that came in before them. Arkansas already had rivalries within that conference that were pretty solid, like LSU, because of the way they border. South Carolina, didn't really play Tennessee and all those schools. So the history is just really the last 35 years since they've joined. And their big rival is Clemson, who is, as of right now, not in their conference. So they don't have that to fall back on. And then if you look around, like, who is like, if
South Carolina to me would have to be Florida, just because of proximity. Of course, all of them are close.
But
most of them are close.
But that's the thing is
you're right.
There's always going to be one.
Florida's not going to give up one of the ones that
you have to shoehorn in.
Yeah.
And that's their problem. The SEC is when they decided to pick permanent opponents. When A&M came in, they're like, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's there's like
South Carolina, just because they share a state, it wouldn't be Florida. It'd be like Kentucky, and it'd be somebody like that. But yeah, I mean the pods, I remember talking about those at great length, how you could do 4 14 pods, and the Texas one's self-explanatory, but then you do have Oklahoma State out there, and it creates this domino of, okay, well, they'll just go to the Kansas schools, and then Iowa State, but then you got BYU's on an island, and then they're not going to West Virginia and Orlando, and I mean, so it's not perfect, but there are a couple ways you could do it, and we'll see. I mean, I think it's got everybody thinking about, what if everybody did that? What would it look like? And what if everybody played a non-Power 5, and then in their non-conference, what would that look like? How would that all work? So I think we're going to get answers to that at Diesel, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about scheduling, and we're going to see sort of how everybody starts to shaping up their narratives and their formulas on what's best for them moving forward as we get into this expanded playoff where strength of schedule is clearly going to matter a great deal.
But you could do 2 protected rivals, and
two would be
that
easy.
would be easy.
That's what I said at the very beginning. Is like it doesn't have to be 3, but then if you do 2, then I'm sure there's something that would come out from that. Like, well, why is Baylor not playing Houston? Like, why is that not happening? But 2, you could probably make that work a lot easier than the 3 for sure, and make it a little cleaner.
Yeah.
Another stadium note: Army, West Point, the Cadets will introduce sale of alcoholic beverages at football games, so there's those. That's some schools have done that for quite some time. Some are still kind of like on the fence. Some have said never. I would never say never, especially when the revenue you need. But West Point, the Cadets will be introducing the sale of alcoholic beverages at football games.
I think that's great for the Cadets. I mean, great for people that go and watch their football games, that enjoy a nice cold one while they watch their college football. And I am kind of surprised by it, I suppose. I never really gave it much thought, though, and to think that Army would go about pursuing that. But it makes all the sense in the world. Everybody's grabbing what money they can. I think it's going to be super curious to see the religious schools who are saying, nope, that's not what we're about, as they see the extra $500,000 they could make a year just by simply turning the taps on. How long do you hold out on that and stick to your guns? I think some will. I think Auburn get drunk during the pregame, because there's no sales at McLean Stadium. I'll go ahead and tell you that right now. And they're one of those schools that might not ever have them, but they are missing out on a lot of money by not having it. So is there ever a breaking point where you go, damn, even we have to chase those dollars from alcohol sales? I don't know, because there's some very conservative folks who are going to have say in that. But I think that's cool for Army, and it's a great thing for college fans these last few years to be able to not have to sneak things in all the time.
Nebraska until this year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain places that are just kind of more taking their time, and some may never.
I can tell you one that probably won't is right down the street, or until a lot of people with influence die. And I hate to put it that way, but that's what is gonna like. Long as those people are alive,
a new generation would have to enter the fold.
Yeah, as long as those people are alive and still have say, they're gonna come in and make sure that doesn't happen.
You're right.
Especially
if their names are on the buildings.
Yeah, it was a very large undertaking. They had the Cross Canadian Ragweed and Texas Troubadours concert at McLean last weekend, and it was a large undertaking to sell alcohol for that event. Which they did. And so, I think they're fine with it for one-offs, but when it's a Baylor athletics event, that's just probably not going to happen anytime
Mac
soon.
Roach told us it would never happen.
He told us, and like 2 days later, I saw a guy going, do y'all think Baylor would ever sell? We just
told you.
Literally asked that question.
Did you all ever in your lifetime at a game, whether you wear boots or whatever, did you ever sneak like a fireball or any kind of
sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, going to concerts and things like that. Like, yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who's been a part of that type of scene, concerts or college football games, has probably done that. But that was also not when there's metal detectors everywhere and every, security checkpoint that we have now. That
we had metal detectors at Tallahassee. We had people that would put it in a Ziploc bag, and then they would put it in the waistband of their pants and then walk in. And I can't, my friend, like, we saw it happen one time with one of our friends, and we're like, we're not going to do this, because what happened was he didn't seal the bag quite good enough, and he poured Everclear in there. Like, he was going to put mixed Coke and Everclear.
If you're going to put it in your underwear, you better seal the bag.
Okay. So here's what happened. He just turns the corner and bumps into a guy slightly, and the bag just explodes in his pants. And he had a scrape on his thigh from playing intramural football, and it was pouring Everclear straight into it. And he just cried for the first quarter and a half of the game.
I can see that. Missouri. This is interesting because I saw the responses were better than just the story. University of Missouri will no longer rush the field. Students, fans, SEC fines $500,000 for violations, money that goes directly to our opponent. We expect to win. Let's celebrate loudly, proudly, and together in the stands. That's easier said than done when you start to have the flow of bodies over the retaining walls. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. If enough students want to do that, it's going to happen. It's like the dam burst. But that's a note from Mizzou. That's a lot of money, especially the SEC. That you have to do something that's going to hit them hard. If they're going to do something that gets annoying or something that could stop something that is also dangerous.
I think the whole field storming thing can be kind of a conversation. There's people that absolutely loathe it. You just come to find out, you spend enough time on the internet, people hate everything. There's some segment that hates everything, and then or something like everything's hated by somebody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right. Field storming is hated by some segment of the population. I don't really have much of a problem with it. I do think it can kind of get goofy, like especially if you see one school wins a big game one weekend, then all of a sudden the following weekend it seems like there's 2 or 3 that are now rushing the field because they just want to be a part of the same kind of experience. Yep. That's when I do think it gets a little wonky and not really serving its true purpose, I guess, of you're just so excited like you have nothing to do but to go rush the field and celebrate this massive moment. But it's something they don't want to see, so how can they make sure it doesn't happen? Yeah, you say, hey, the money's in play, and we're going to hit you where it hurts in your wallet. And even for the mighty SEC schools that have millions more than most, that's still $500,000 that they could spend on a wide receiver or a new sauna in the facility or something else. So, yeah, money drives everything, especially in college football now. And they don't want to lose it. So, don't rush the field.
And that's why the NCAA felt like their penalty of Michigan was okay because of the fact that they were going to take money away from the college football appearances.
The problem with that is that we don't know that they are. So that's right. So they think that they're trying to, but the fact of the matter is Michigan could pay like nothing when all is said and done on appeal.
Well, remember when Penn State got nuked because of Sandusky and that controversy or that tragedy. They eventually got a lot of their stuff back.
All of it.
I mean, they sued and they got a lot of that. It looked good. It looked hard. It looked like it was harsh.
All of it. Yeah. And they got off on the legal technicality of, this is a felony, and you guys don't have jurisdiction over adjudicating felonies. And they're like, yeah, but like the coach covered up this felony.
Yeah,
I know. That. Like I don't normally side with them, but that one I thought like, well, maybe that's the time where we need to draw that red line. But also, I just think that because of social media, like Craig said, the nuance of this or the uniqueness of it has, like, if you're going to rush the field once a year, who gives a crap? Right. Like, you got to save those moments. And of course, we're in the now generation of like, I want to do it now. I'm excited now. But I think if you're just stone cold, you don't rush the field. You're like, yeah, we thought we were going to beat your ass.
When K-State probably, when they started turning the corner under Bill Snyder, I'm sure when they beat Nebraska, who had not beaten maybe in years and decades, or Oklahoma lost a game to KU or something like that, which they did one year. It's just, but now, yeah, once somebody does it, then there's going to be 3 the next weekend. Chipotle is going to make their food, every scholarship and walk-on student athlete at Florida, Georgia, and Ohio State, a customized card granting them free Chipotle as long as they're at the respective athletic, I guess probably team, and also seasons. Hopefully, Murphy, got a note from him in just a second. Don't skip on the rice and the guacamole.
Okay, so moving on here. Here is their promotional video with DJ Lagway. Okay, so watch this video, and then I'll show you.
You next in line, bro. Next up, into the spotlight. But that's where Gators like us belong. We train for moments like this, put in the work, and eat right with real food that doesn't compromise. Because we don't compromise. They're gonna push you, see if you back down. But they're gonna find out what I already know. Gators don't back down. I appreciate you, much love. You next, bro.
Okay.
I've heard it's healthy, but I've had it a few times. God, it's a lot of food.
I'm personally, it's not my favorite burrito bowl place. But Dude Wipes then responds Every athlete in Florida is going to need us.
Oh, God. That's the second
Jackson
time.
Arnold sent some of them over.
Yeah. I want to get to this one story, and it's behind a paywall, but I just got a text from Brett McMurphy on this next one. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, as far as this story goes, I think it's cool to see DJ Lagway getting the attention that he's getting to the point where it's rubbing some people the wrong way that feel now that he's a bit overhyped. So maybe he is. Well, that's the beauty of where we are now. We're going to find out, and I don't think that he necessarily is, but he is getting a lot of attention already as one of the best quarterbacks in college football, period, and that's real NIL right there. That's, I think, what everybody sort of anticipated the original idea was like, oh, Chipotle wants to spend specific money with these specific athletes and do a commercial to actually promote the product, not just say, hey, I'm a marketing firm and I'm going to give you this amount of money to be a spokesperson. And what does it entail? Just show up to the meet and greet.
You'll find out.
Yeah, like you'll find out. And so that's not really, to me, NIL. This is what I always sort of had in mind about what it would be like. And I think it's cool that college athletes are getting the opportunity to be in Nike commercials or Chipotle commercials or whatever, and should have been able to do that all along. So that is part of the whole change that we've experienced the last few years that I do think is better off. And I think it's great for the athletes who are getting the Chipotle, all that you can eat, but also the money that's attached to it and the exposure that's attached to it. I think it's great for all parties and should have been that way probably all along. But here we are now, so make the best of it.
As we were saying, the story, Kyle Visser, did you guys see where Chipotle is giving free food to 3 football teams all season?
You know what? Yeah. I've actually never had Chipotle. I've never had it.
I have. It's good. It's good food.
I have friends that swore, like when it was really popular for a little while, like years ago, I had buddy that went there like every single day. And one of them was an offensive lineman at Texas Tech. So you can see where that would be a great go-to. Yeah. But I never went over there. It wasn't even intentional. I just never found my way over there or Freebirds for that matter. When they were both very hot to trot places.
I am a Freebirds person and not a Chipotle person. I don't care.
You brought one of them back one time to the radio station, and I'm like, "What is that for 5 people?" That's
that
huge.
monster burrito!
Oh my
God! Yeah. No, that was kind of on a dare. But
Jeez.
yeah,
Paul dared himself.
But yeah, but no, I prefer Freebirds. I'm not a big fan of the rice or the guac. And they also try to do queso at Chipotle, and I know they do, but like if you're from Texas, you'll be like, "What is this?" Like, very
soggy
thin
food.
I'm very simple. Throw a little rice in there, give me some lettuce, and then whatever meat protein, whether it's chicken or the beef.
I don't feel like as strongly about Chipotle as I do on the Olive Garden scale, but it's one I skip. Now, my father-in-law, I get him a Chipotle gift card to put in his Christmas stocking every year, and he gets last year it fell down, and he thought he didn't have it, and he's like, "Where's my Chipotle gift card?" And I was like, "It's in there." And he's like, and he was very worried about it. He loves Chipotle.
I saw in the chat earlier Conundrum mentioning that reporters around the country are saying the Big Ten is going to expand. Let me put this out. Here's the headline. Maryland AD, Big Ten expansion again. I texted Brett McMurphy. I said, hey, by the way, tell me about the story about the random comment from the Maryland AD, Smith. Overblown. That's exactly what he said to me. Big Ten expanding again. Don't believe me? New Maryland AD in an interview this week with Inside Maryland Sports Radio. We will have how many teams in 2030? 20 of them. Then McMurphy goes down and checklist about why these teams or certain teams will not be a part of it because of historical purposes, etc. But he did say this is overblown. And, of course, people love realignment. And even though that's the AD at Maryland, Brett's saying that there's nothing to it.
Okay, so let me get this straight here. So his own story is overblown because everybody's citing his story on this. So if everybody's going to On3, who threw out the North Carolina realignment thing when that North Carolina website was joining that fizzled out in 24 hours when it was just a rehashing of everything that was out there.
He's
now
quoting the Maryland AD. Though.
Okay, so
it's
the
not
way
him reporting that.
but that's the way it's being taken.
No,
and
it's not. Yeah,
that's the way it's being taken.
That's why, and I try to do the due diligence when I don't know, which means everything. I said, tell me about he goes, overblown. So inside the story, which is in a paywall, he sent it to me. I don't have time to read the whole thing, but what he's basically saying is that that he's just quoting the AD, but when he says what role does Notre Dame play in it, Brett shoots that to smithereens because, listen, let's make it clear again that Notre Dame has been an independent for how long? Their entire existence, basically. And so that's why he did use the quotes from the AD to then write the story from his perspective on his sources.
Yeah, it's a story that says Maryland AD says Big Ten expanding and it's behind a paywall. And that's what everybody's talking about. So to hear him then say, well, it's not really a big deal. It's just, am I crazy? Am I crazy? But that's fine. I'm just saying, like, okay, well, everybody's taking it as a big deal, which is not necessarily his fault. I don't know about the packaging kind of misleading, but regardless, the details to it is, that Notre Dame, the part that I did see, because I don't have a subscription, is that Notre Dame is not a part of this. And so if you were thinking that that's one of those two teams that is being referred to, no, it's not Notre Dame. Now, it would open you up to do what everybody's done and go, okay, well, North Carolina and Clemson and Florida State, and go down the ACC path that we've gone down countless times over the last few years. So, I don't think that's the 2030 thing when all the television contracts come up and the ability for Florida State and Clemson to have lower buyouts and all, like, I think we've said it a bunch of times. I think other people have probably said it, but like, guess what? There's going to be probably more realignment by around 2030 because all the contracts come up and there are clearly teams that want to move. So like when we see these headlines, that's why I wonder, are they just shaking the same cage to get the reaction?
Based on his story, I'm going to share it with you guys later on.
Yeah.
So you can read it because anytime, listen, and if there's another expansion wave and like
there's going to be.
The UNLV AD said, hey, we know it's coming around 2030. He took the quote from the Maryland AD and then shot holes in certain opportunities or options that the Big Ten or SEC or whoever else would have when it comes to expansions. Like Grayson, Brett McMurphy saying there is nothing to the story as often an omen that there's something to the story. See Miami hiring Cristobal. So appreciate that from Grayson.
Yeah, no, the gist of it was for somebody who read it said that they're going to be at 20 by 2030. That's the whole gist of it, basically.
And you know what's scary about that? They're at 18. That doesn't take but two teams. That's
so I don't think that's actually. I think it's new in that the Maryland AD is talking about it publicly. That is absolutely new. I think, though, instead of that being like, oh, my God, they're going to do that, it's more like just further reinforcement that, they're probably going to do that. And it's probably going to be a couple of teams from the ACC and who knows beyond that. But, I think you throw realignment out there, especially when you're talking about spots in the Big Ten, and you have schools with big fan bases who already have been wanting out for a couple years, and that's easy chum in the water for sure. But there's something to it, something that's been there, and now the Maryland AD is throwing gas on it for whatever reason. But that won't be shocking at all. It'll just be the guess of who those two teams specifically will be, because there is more than two to choose from. Yeah, and that is interesting.
Yeah, he does. Conundrum. Brett knows more than the Maryland AD. I got a feeling Brett McMurphy's about tied in. We love him. That doesn't mean he's completely 100% in the know. He's about as much as anyone could be in the know in college football when it covers the game. The Maryland AD probably could have been just like speaking in terms of, we're going to be expanding too, without knowing which the teams might be.
I think if you read it word for word, like by 2030, then that maybe speeds things up a little bit in your mind, that more or less you were thinking to start to happen at about 2030 because of the television contracts. So maybe for some people that are getting excited about it, it's like, oh, it could happen sooner. It could happen. I don't know. But Brett definitely knows what he's talking about. The Maryland AD does as well. I don't know exactly what the Maryland AD said other than
it was in a radio interview.
They're going to be at 20.
So with their own sports network.
But if Brett's saying there's nothing to it right now, well, it's 2025. So there doesn't have to be anything to the obvious that's going to happen at some point in the next 5 years. I think if you like you see any story, yes, the Big Ten's going to expand at some point, probably around 2030, give or take 2029, 2031. That just, I think that is abundantly clear at this stage. And it's abundantly clear that the SEC might follow suit and could be making plans of their own. And I think that the Big 12 is sitting there coming up with various plans of what they might have to do, because in case the Big Ten, because let's face it, all the people have been champion Big 12. There's fans in Salt Lake City, and there's fans in Lawrence, Kansas, and there's fans even in places like Morgantown and Stillwater that wish, hope, and pray that they could be one of those getting those phone calls.
Absolutely.
So that's going to keep the interest of fan bases like that as well, even if it is probably already pretty deadlocked on an FSU and a Clemson type of school.
He also said the candidates that people may hear in 2025 as far as for the Big Ten, their top candidates might not even be top candidates in 2030 when that comes around.
Yeah.
So,
and look, there are obvious, teams in the ACC that have, dipped their toe all the way in the water and finding out how to get out. And we know how that went. Conundrum, I would respond to you this way. I don't know if he knows more. He's not saying he knows more. He just gave details on what he did know, and he definitely knows more than you.
We don't know who Conundrum is. Yeah. Could be Tony Petitti. Wouldn't that be
definitely
something?
not Tony Petitti.
No, Conundrum Sankey.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he definitely knows more than you.
He does throw up some interesting notes every once in a while, and sometimes he's just a
here's
you have to defend him. He can defend himself.
Here's the thing: is what you're drilling down on though is either Brett saying there's really not anything to the obvious that you could have 20 by 2030, maybe because that's already pretty obvious that that's the route it's going, or maybe he's responding to. And I don't want to speculate any further. I'm like, well, maybe, but maybe it's just the reaction that's suddenly like, oh my God, it's happening, as we've talked about. And it's like, no, it's 2025 by 2030. There's a lot of runway there. And so, yeah, anything could happen between those time periods, and something likely will. And it likely will involve the Big Ten. I don't know what the SEC's appetite is, but again, that's a story we can talk about daily and have in some cases.
By the way, when the Notre Dame thing was brought up, he said, when I teach my Realignment 101 classes, Notre Dame has been an independent since forever, and the Irish will remain an independent until the world ends or until we have another COVID season, whichever comes first, because then all of a sudden you played conference games. That's the first team any conference would want, period, no matter what ever happens down the road. But at the same time, we've discussed this ad nauseum forever about their ability to be independent. They basically run their own ship and get whatever they want, other than what they do with the ACC with other sports.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where they're really forced into anything unless there's just some ace up Greg Sankey's sleeve, some master plan he and Petitti are concocting, where they're eventually going to take the teams that pull the last Jenga block that makes the tower fall, where Notre Dame's got to jump and save itself rather than worry about upholding the ACC to have its own little personal custom place. Like, that would be the scenario. I don't know what levers you could pull to do that other than the obvious, like FSU, Clemson. But even then, is that going to make the Irish want to go, we'll give up all of our power? Because no, of course not. So they're going to hold on till their last dying breath to independence. And they should, because everybody in that same situation should hold a great advantage like that.
They have one of the top four most powerful conference commissioners that's in charge of one school. He's more powerful than Jim Phillips because he gets to tell Jim Phillips what to do. Mm-hmm. And he's in that league for everything but football. So Pete Bavacqua and then, the subsequent ADs before him, they have all been more powerful than pretty much every ACC or Big 12 commissioner. And you're probably splitting hairs right now when it comes to him and Yormark, because Yormark has to oversee 16 teams and he just has to oversee one. And guess what? The Notre Dame AD always is in on the rules.
And guess who will not want to see anything and try to keep anything from happening when it comes to Notre Dame and anybody? It would be the SEC. They would not want that to happen. Here's a quote from Jim Phillips a while back. Notre Dame loves two things. One is being Catholic, and the second is being independent. That's a great way to summarize it right there.
Yeah, so I do think that there's sometimes, and I think the North Carolina situation was one of them, where it's like, it's kind of quiet. Here's a grenade. and the easy grenade to throw out there is realignment. But the Maryland AD threw the grenade. So this isn't exactly that. So that's why it got the reaction that it did. It wasn't just something random completely. So I can understand people getting into a tizzy over that because it's coming from where it's coming from. But I think to say something could happen by 2030, well, I could be any number of places by 2030. It's a long time now, and a lot can happen. And I don't think anybody's safe necessarily.
You guys, real quick, and then I want to get to the last headline, and then we move on to our guest in the 4 o'clock hour. Cole Cubelic will join us here in just a moment. Do you think that any of the Power 4 conferences will add anybody between now and 2030?
Yes. Between now and 2030, no.
Do you think anybody in the Power 4 conferences will be in another conference between now and 2030?
No.
I kind of think 2030 is when it's all going to start happening. Kind of that vicinity is when I expect it to start kind of happening. I think that's when most people are pointing to when that, because of the contracts.
TV contract, and until Brett Zerneman reports it doesn't matter.
Right? Yeah, I would.
Brett McMurphy, but
I would say it's not a 0% chance. I just don't think I would put it in I would say that it's the greater percentage chance. I'd say I'd lean more towards no, they don't add anybody between now and then beyond that, hands off. But I could definitely be wrong because just one move can change the landscape pretty quickly, and one move could make everybody go scurry and have another situation like we had a couple summers ago. Just
a quick note, you could flash it up in any way you want, Brandon, on the Pac-12 and the CW. The extension all the way through, look at the years, 20, 30, 31. So they'll have more games. Obviously, CBS is involved with them as well. But the Pac-12 now with another network that is going to be along for that timeline of when a lot of the TV things do run out, including this one will in 2030, 31. But they have other games, not just football. Football's a small amount of them, but we'll have some games on the CW.
Is this on Apple? No, I'm just kidding. Good for them. I think there's a real scenario, speaking about the realignment stuff, where in like 2030, depending on the way things go, everybody who's touting their conference is like turning to the left and right and slitting people's throats and like trying to find the last, like Oregon State and Washington State have helped form this. They would leave it in 2 seconds if they had the opportunity to leave it.
Absolutely.
The same way that Kansas would leave for the Big Ten in 2 seconds. And so it could get really crazy and chaotic depending on what levers are pulled. But, I don't think it's right now. People clearly, though, are on the edge of their seats hoping that their teams are going to be involved in it, though.
No, anybody, hey, this is Greg Sankey, yes, or whoever it might be. Speaking of Oregon State, we're come back with Cole Cubelic, who is a former Auburn football player, of course, part of ESPN, the SEC Network, and more. Mike Hass, former 3-time All-American wide receiver from Oregon State, a part of the College Football Hall of Fame, will join us today at 4:45, as will Steve Burl, former Notre Dame and Cowboys quarterback. He'll join us at 5:30 on CJ Carr. What's it like to be the quarterback at a place like Notre Dame in your first start? This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. It happens. It happens. It's part of, I was going to say Mother Nature. Sometimes that might be the case. It's part of Father Time. As you grow older, it doesn't matter if you've taken care of yourself, if you've been healthy, if you've had no other issues at all. Man, you might feel fit, all of that. And then yet your testosterone level can drop. It's kind of like in some ways, sometimes, you can create high blood pressure because of your lack of activity or because of the fact you're not taking care of yourself or you're always just so uptight. But that also can just be hereditary. Testosterone's not like that, but it can drop. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe that is you. How do you find out? Contact Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com. He'll set you up to get your blood work, take care of that for you, get the results, get back in touch with you if, in fact, your testosterone level is fine or it's too low, and put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco during the Make This the Summer event.
Check out the all-new Jeeps that are arriving daily. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990. Or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling, and ramp up your summer in style with a Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by, let's be friends.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Cole Cubelic played at Auburn, ESPN, SEC, all of it. And, of course, a great show that he does on WJOX. I was on that station earlier today with Pat Smith. Cole, thank you very much for your time. What are the expectations for this Auburn team, and are the expectations right off the top to be really good?
I don't think people know if the expectations are to be good. I think the expectation is that's a team that's talented, that has the ability to go out and win some football games, that has a high ceiling. But there's nothing about this team that happened last year or that we've seen in the offseason or in the spring that should give people a lot of confidence other than the fact that they have talent. And the coaching staff has had some ups, had some downs. Certain players that are going to be relied upon have had ups and downs in their career. So a lot of it's still just an unknown. I don't think you can go into it and say definitively, yes, this team's going to be very good. Now, the good news is that about 80% of the SEC is the same way. And even the teams at the top of the SEC, I think, are going to have more holes, more question marks than they've had in previous years. That's all of college football for the most part right now. So I think it's fair to say you have optimism. It's fair to say that the ceiling is high. To go in definitively and say this is going to be a great year, I don't think any Auburn fan realistically should be able to go into it saying that.
Do you think that Hugh Freeze finally has a quarterback room that he can at least compete with, because it wasn't the case the first 2 years?
I think the quarterback room is in great shape. You guys know Jackson Arnold as well as anybody. You've watched him operate and watched him be recruited. He has as high of a ceiling as any quarterback in the SEC, Sellers, Lagway, any of them, because he's a real run threat. He's not just a mobile guy. I think some people sort of misunderstand that he's somebody who can really break you down as a runner 60, 80 yards. I mean, he can be a scoring threat from anywhere on the field on the ground. So he allows you to design some of that. He forces defenses to defend it, and it makes Auburn very different when he's on the field as far as how you're going to have to game plan him. Now, throwing the football, beautiful ball, gets it out quick, can be accurate, but his biggest problem last year was actually letting go of the ball. He couldn't throw the football, and that's got to be coached out of him and then coached back into him. Has that happened? We don't know yet. We won't know until we see that game Friday night. Maybe even one game won't be a true testament of whether or not he's been able to get past that. But you go get Ashton Daniels from Stanford, who kind of a poor man's Taylor Green at Arkansas, a long strider, has a good arm. He's inconsistent throwing the football because his arm angles change, but he's somebody who can find different ways to beat you, and I think it's pretty tough and has good football experience, has good game experience. And you got Deuce Knight coming in that's highly touted. I know they're excited about him. He's had a good camp. They love what he's done. Somebody I think that staff would probably tell you, if they were being honest, they could see him being ready to go a quarter way through the season, midway through the season. He's just a freshman right now. You don't want to put him out there in these situations, but somebody who I think could be ready to be a player before the season's over. So, yeah, that room is in great shape, much better shape top to bottom. This is not a Peyton Thorne conversation, but top to bottom, that room's in much better shape than it was a season ago.
Cole, what's kind of the Auburn fan, I guess, anticipation, expectation, fear, or maybe lack thereof when it comes to Baylor? Like, what are people thinking in terms of the challenge that they're walking into with Dave Aranda and the Bears?
Well, there's a laundry list of those. Number one, it's on the road. Number two, it's a tough place to play. You see, blackout message boards. Don't let Auburn fans get the tickets, find the tickets. You got alumni coming back to try to up the ante on the game to make it even bigger. So I think that's dangerous no matter who you are, what your skill set is, what your strengths are versus their strengths, what the matchup looks like. You walk into a hornet's nest like that, and it's not going to allow you to play sloppy football. It's not going to allow you to play poor situationally. It's not going to allow you to make a lot of mistakes. That's just what it is. Then you look at Dave Aranda, who I reference as the samurai that comes in that can have guys in different places all the time, can show you things that's not what they're going to be. He's going to force you to think about things more than maybe you should based on what they're actually running. And then he is going to give you different looks, and he is going to do different things, and he is going to make life hard. And then you have a veteran quarterback that has won big games, been in big games, that if he needs to be the guy that the team rides, he can do that. On top of that, you're taking an offense that has been masterful running the stretch play for the last 4 or 5 years. Obviously, Grimy is now at Wisconsin, but I don't think they're getting away from that, because the hardest thing about running the stretch play is having an offensive line that knows how to do it, that's worked together to be able to accomplish it. I understand the group might be a little bit different, and the running back situation might not be the same due to some injuries and departures, but they mix it and match it as well as anybody. Pullers, blocking back, doing different things with it. And now you're going to take an air raid principal coordinator, who I don't think is getting rid of that, and going to add his principles passing on top of it. So what are you technically preparing for? You don't necessarily know what that mesh is going to look like and what it's going to be. So there's 8 or 10 things in the laundry list of what I think Auburn needs to be concerned about heading into this game Friday night.
Cole, I saw a note earlier this week that Auburn's offensive line, which is massive, obviously, Baylor's got some size too, but is it 200 and some, not starts, but games combined in one of the highest numbers among the SEC in the country?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know those numbers. I mean, it's, if you got 50 crummy starts together, I could care less.
That's true.
It doesn't matter. So the reality is this group has not gone out together and been dominant very often. They had a couple games they looked good last year, and I do think that the one thing that I'll tell you Auburn has better than the way that I see it right now, anybody in college football, is tackle depth. They have better tackle depth than anybody out there. And that doesn't mean that they have 5 first-round draft picks at offensive tackle, but you go get Xavier Chaplin from Virginia Tech, who I think is a good player, has the capabilities of being a great player, has a perfect tackle frame. But I think Mason Murphy from USC is a better football player. Now, he's a little shorter, squattier, doesn't have as long of arms, but he's a better player. Well, Too Tall Miller was there last year. He played plenty. Dylan Wade's at left guard. He has started at tackle and done it well. He can kick out the tackle if he needs to. And you still have Tyler Johnson, who was almost ready a year ago. And you're going to have an extra tight end that was repping tackle last year that in an emergency situation, if you got down that far, could probably move there and help you with that situation. So that's a spot that I feel great about. Connor Lew is one of the best centers in college football. I would say one of the best centers in the SEC, but that's not doing it justice this year because this might be the deepest center class with Jake Slaughter and Parker Brailsford and some of these guys that I've seen in the Southeastern Conference in a long time. He's a great player. And then on the right side, in Jeremiah Wright, you have a people mover. I mean, he's a literal, like he is a machine on a construction site. Like he can get people out of the way. So these guys have been together for a long period of time, some of them more than others. But these 2 tackles transferred in, so it's not like they've all played together. You can tell me that 2 tackles have 75 starts or games, whatever it is, but they haven't done it with these guys. And that's the key to being a great offensive line, is operating together in situations in which people in full pads are trying to make you look bad. That's what this group has not done a ton of. So that can be offset by some of the other stats that are nice to hear about and fun to say. The reality is they got to get out there and do it full speed against other people as a unit, and that has not happened a whole lot. But the potential for this to be the best Auburn offensive line we've seen in 8, 10, 12 years is absolutely there. They're 100% capable of being that.
What was the initial reaction when you guys were trying to break down Hugh Freeze saying that they had 3 different play callers in an overly ornate answer to, I can just overrule it at any time, but here's the play caller?
Utter stupidity, probably. But not where you're thinking. This is what this situation is. You have an offensive coordinator whose contract states he has to be the primary play caller or he's going to get sued. So it has to be stated that way for contractual reasons. However else it plays out, honestly, doesn't really matter. It's just that has to be the perception and that has to be a certain reality so Derek Nix doesn't get sued for $280,000 or whatever it is. My problem with it was, this doesn't need to be a public conversation. Why did it get to that? I know better. I know more football than to think that one person on first down is getting on the headset and calling a play, and then a different person on second down is getting on the headset and calling a play, and then a third person on third down is getting on the headset and calling plays. For anybody who believes that might be real, you're dumb. Just stop watching football. It doesn't work that way. Nobody lets it work that way. It could never smoothly operate that way. That's just not real. But as you guys have probably seen, there's a lot of this Auburn program that is low-hanging fruit right now. Playing golf, recruiting rankings, how many quarterbacks are going to play, who calls plays on what down. These are things that if Auburn had won 9 games last year, I don't even think they make a message board post. But since they did, now we're going to take Hugh Freeze lightly getting aggressive and raising his voice at a quarterback in one snap of one fall practice, and we're writing headlines that the volcano has erupted at Auburn and the offense isn't going to work. That's just where it is. It's unfortunate. It's the reality of this league. It just means more. We love to hate more than we love to love. It's just what it is in the Southeastern Conference. And there is some low-hanging fruit aspect to where Hugh Freeze and Auburn are right now. But in no shape, form, or fashion does it operate that way. The correct answer would have been, Derek Nix is our primary play caller. Multiple people have insight, period. And you stop talking. And that has been a bit of a struggle with certain things like that, of course, across the offseason.
Well, I'll just throw in, if I don't understand the golf thing at all. I mean, I understand that people want the coaches to be out there recruiting all the time, but Steve Spurrier was wildly successful for a long time. And that
you
guy,
guys have someone close to where you live who literally qualified for the U.S. Open as the head coach of a football team, and his school's Twitter account is bragging about it.
Yeah,
that's
it's
exactly,
not that big. Like, Steve Spurrier plays golf more than he eats breakfast. Like, what's the difference? Like, I don't understand like the whole thing. But like you said, it is the time, because they're 5-7 2 years in a row, and everybody wants to figure out if this is the the bubble bursting or not.
Well,
the season
there's
started.
This mythical perception of college coaches with a lot of fans, specifically where I live, because they watched Nick Saban operate in this robotic fashion for a decade plus. And literally, like, when they see the guy on his boat at the lake, I think they believe it's CGI. Or when they see him attending, a golf outing somewhere else, that like somebody created that digitally and it didn't really happen. He's actually out recruiting somewhere. I know they make a lot of money. I know it takes up a lot of time, but all of these coaches have things that they do. And it's Kirby Smart goes to the lake. Kirby Smart goes to the beach with his family. Like, Kirby Smart goes and watches kids play baseball. It all happens. Dave Aranda does things on his own time that are not dialed into Baylor film. It's just, it's what it is. But once again, we have these perceptions built up that these guys are these cyborgs that work 28 hours a day, and it just can't happen that way. But, and like you said, when the record is what it is, it allows for these things to be focused on and for them to become a focal point. It's unfortunate, but it's where we are.
What were your thoughts? There's an article written, I think, by Ross Dellinger about Aranda. One, he was on his 9th cup of coffee, about Aranda kind of, you self-scout yourself, that he felt like even though he might be ahead of the curve, he himself is still not so sure he did not have to make some changes on defense.
Well, Dave Aranda has a little bit of that Lou Holtz in him, where, he's like always going to be overly complimentary of the opponent, and maybe always a little bit more self-deprecating towards his team than he needs to be. I think that's just his demeanor. I don't believe Dave Aranda's ever had a sip of coffee, because I've never seen him animated. So I don't think that's a real thing. If he has, it's been decaf. So any of us can drink 9 cups of decaf coffee, and it's not going to matter. I'm going to need to see a little more jubilation if I believe that Dave Aranda is on some sort of a caffeine high. I'm just not going to buy it. Listen, Dave Aranda is the master of self-scouting. I've had conversations with him about this when he was at LSU, and the depths in which he goes to dissect himself rather than his opponent. I think great coaches do this. You hear a lot of the coaches that are very successful say, it's about us. It's what we do. Sure, you have to know what to expect from your opponent. You have to know how to make those adjustments. You have to know how to react to certain looks and personnel groupings and routes and route combinations. But at the end of the day, if you don't take care of you, you don't even have a chance to do any of those other things that I just mentioned. And Dave has always been very forward thinking on taking care of himself and taking care of his group first, because I truly believe that deep down inside, his thought process, his mentality, his DNA probably tells him, as long as I've got us covered, the other stuff will work itself out. And we are at least giving ourselves a chance. And he's put himself in position to be successful doing that. So it doesn't surprise me at all. And I would always assume, based on what I know in my conversations with him, that Dave Aranda probably self-scouts much more than he scouts his opponents, because he feels like that has to be right initially if you're going to have a chance to go beat anybody else, whether they're more talented, less talented, whether their scheme is super difficult or super simple. He still knows deep down, I got to take care of me, or else none of the other stuff really matters.
I'm curious, Cole, your thoughts on Clemson and LSU. Brian Kelly's not won an opener yet since he's been at LSU. Do you think that he is set up as well to overcome a loss in this game as maybe Dabo Swinney and Clemson would be? Because I assume this is going to be a pretty tight one all the way around and come down to the end.
That's an interesting question, because I don't know if I would. I think Clemson's going to win the national championship. Yeah. But I don't know if Clemson is better suited to just get over that or get past the loss there, because this is where some of the misconceptions come in with how we look at this. We say, oh, LSU already lost, so how can they overcome this and how can they battle back? Look at the schedule. But if you're going to even have a chance to battle back, if you're going to have a chance to get back in the mix, you better have some makeup games there. So I reference those as opportunity games as opposed to how are they going to do this games. Because if you lose them, who cares? It doesn't really matter. But if you want to jump back over that hurdle and you want to be able to fight your way out of that corner, you better have some meaningful games in front of you. You better have some games that if you go win them, those people who saw you lose that first game now say, whew, I changed my mind on that group. I don't think that's the same group I saw week one. And if you weighed those two schedules against each other, I damn sure believe LSU has more of those than Clemson does in front of them. So LSU might actually still be in a better spot to have a loss there to come back and be in the playoff than Clemson does because they have more games to go prove that they're more worthy to be there than Clemson is going to. Now, some of that will be how good is Oklahoma at the end of the year? How good is South Carolina at the end of the year? So your schedule and how it plays out will still determine that. And we don't know exactly what that's going to look like right now. But once again, similar to the Hugh Freeze things, is a little bit of low-hanging fruit right now. Because you could – I saw a stat. I went and found a stat after UNLV won over the weekend against who was that? Idaho State. Dan Mullen is 13-2 in openers. Well, I can promise you this. They weren't playing world beaters at Florida and Mississippi State when he was there. Because Florida never plays world beaters in their opener except the one time they played Michigan in Dallas. Other than that, they don't do that. They're playing the Sharks of Rhode Island this weekend. So we can spin the numbers however we want, and you can make certain things look however. The reality is Brian Kelly at LSU has played very difficult opponents in his openers. So to just sit back and say he can't get that done, I think is a little bit of a lazy take. He actually may be more prepared to get a team back in a playoff run because he's already experienced that. And he knows how to get his team ready again if they were to have that happen.
Cole, my last question, if you don't mind. If we know the pecking order, the Big Ten, the SEC, and what all that means, the money, how, in your opinion, there's a few games the Big 12 has against teams from that conference, including Auburn and Baylor. How, not critical, but how important is it that they pick off some of these games for the narrative around the country?
It depends on where you want to go. If you want to be in the playoffs and have multiple teams in the playoffs, I think it's critical that you get some of those because I look at the Big 12 in a similar fashion that I do the SEC, and it could be very cannibalistic in the middle. Mm-hmm. I think that you have in the SEC, I would have 3, maybe 4. In the Big 12, maybe 2 to 4, somewhere in that range of upper tier, upper echelon teams that you have a lot of confidence in. But then 3 or 4 through 8 or 10, very close, very similar. All have their little problems, all have things that are really concerning, all may need 1 or 2 things to go their way. But if those things are right, could be really good football teams. And you could see them in the postseason, maybe in the college football playoff, maybe more than 2 teams in the playoff. So some of those teams are going to need those games because the likelihood of them dropping a conference game in the middle of the season, be it because it's on the road or your quarterback or your center was dinged up, those things are just going to happen, specifically when you have meaningful game after meaningful game after meaningful game. You're going to lose to teams that on paper don't have the overall star rating that your team does. So, yeah, I think it's massive for you to go get schools from conferences that appear to be just better than you or more talented than you or should have more playoff spots than you. So, yeah, it's all beating the narrative. Does it mean that it has to happen for those teams to get in? No. Does it mean that it's going to change that entire narrative for the conference? Unfortunately, I think that depends on the talking points of where people who other people listen to decide to go with it. A lot of people might say, well, it was only 1 game. The rest of the league hadn't proven anything. Certain people might say, no, they beat them, and then those 2 teams beat other teams, so that means that they are on par with that league. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's a real black and white way to say if those things happen, it's definitively going to mean this.
Cole, thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. I know you've figured out a way to give us some time, and it's always great to have you on. It really is. You're the best. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate you guys. Enjoy being on with you. Thank you
yes,
so
sir.
much.
Cole Cubelic from ESPN, Auburn, played at Auburn as a center at Auburn, dissects football about as well as anybody that I know. We appreciate him from a perspective of the game, but also of many things in college football today. You guys think that we've discussed this, and you got to pick off this game. I mean, if it's 35-30 or 27-24, yeah, that's great. But, Arizona State didn't beat Texas. They made a run at them, but they didn't win that game. So when you have a chance, if you do have a chance, and if you're in the game, you got to close some of these out.
Yeah, look, I think this is one of the reasons this is one of the most intriguing games in the country this year is it's between two teams that really need this win in different ways. Like Auburn needs to get off on the right foot. And look, it's probably not going to be, season ending for either one of them in the first game, whoever loses it. But Baylor, because of the pressure that exists on the Big 12 that doesn't exist on the SEC, really needs this one. Like they've got 15 other teams going like, hey, can you just get this one here so that we can have a data point to point at recently when all this stuff comes up? Like there's a lot of outside pressure, just our hope that they do. So whether that's realistic or not, whatever. But I do think that like there is a lot of that comes with this game. And for Auburn, like they just don't need their fans going, here we go to start the season now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like falling into the trap of making this a conference thing. Everything's about this conference perception and that conference perception and the pecking order and all of that. I get exhausted by that kind of tribalism over every little thing. But I do think this game has enough without that. If they were two independent teams playing, it would be an interesting game. But the fact there is that element does add some extra spice to this. And I do think, to your point, for the narrative, it's an important game, but so is TCU North Carolina, and so is who else jumps out now that we're trying to sit here and think about who actually has big, like Colorado Georgia Tech, for example. But yeah, those are big games.
Cincinnati
Nebraska is a big one. I mean, but like the thing is, that would be great for Cincinnati.
Yeah,
it would be great for the Big 12, but it's more important for Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Baylor beating Auburn would be great for the Big 12, but it'd be way more important for Baylor. So, here's where I'm coming from kind of with this. We were just talking about realignment earlier, right? And it's like Big 12, Big 12, Big 12. And look, I know that's the audience as well, but we also know Oklahoma State fans saying that in the moment that phone rings, he's like, all right, see you later, guys. Have fun. So that's all well and good for right now, but I don't know how well held together it all is. But in the time that it is held together, which is for now and for the foreseeable future, certainly, if it's going to be this way and divided up this way, then you are going to be in a situation where if you don't win games like this, you're not going to get the level of respect that gets you the nod to get that extra team in the playoff, that gets you another opportunity to try and beat other teams like that then cascades that into multiple wins and multiple points of data where you can say, see, look at this, that, and the other, and this is why we're not respected enough, or why we should be closely measured to this league versus that league and not treated as though we're some second-class citizen. It's like everything else, man. Every single other thing. Oh, we're not fundraising well. Oh, we're not getting the right recruits. Oh, our thing, blah, blah, blah is dated. Oh, the win. That's all it is. So when it comes to the perception,
was my original point. Actually.
But I mean, I don't think everything's got to be SEC versus ACC and this and that. But I do think there is a real narrative out there about the Big 12 that they are second-class citizens. And this is a great game, along with a couple of the others that I mentioned, to try and flip that on its head. So, it's a big deal in that way. But Baylor's ultimately got to worry about Baylor, Auburn about Auburn, and so on and so forth.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Paul, thank you very much. Cole Cubelic, who joins us here on 365 Sports. We have Mike Hass, Oregon State, 3-time All-American, Hall of Fame receiver. But when we come back, you want to do the picks? I am texting to see what RG3, I got a feeling that's probably not going to happen. And his schedule, especially with an earlier game, a Friday game, is condensed. We'll see. Not expecting him, but we didn't think we'd get him last time. I think we had him on and he jumped on with this right off the top. So we'll come back with our picks for the week, 5 of them in college football. And this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35, and they are having a big Thursday night basically kick off the football season the eve of their game with Auburn inside the stadium. They have live beats from DJ Jen, surprise guest appearances, pop-up shops from Love Shack Fancy and more, chef-driven bites, signature cocktails, all the game day vibes to fuel your spirit for the game coming up if you're in the Waco area or if you're an Auburn fan. Coming in and you're a day early, then hey, this is possible for you too. Membership open house during the party. Step inside the newly renovated Baylor Club. I told you they've been doing that. Tour the spaces, meet current members, and discover what it means to be a part of Waco's most exclusive community. Plus, learn about the brand new End Zone Executive Add-on, the ultimate Baylor game weekend upgrade. Nick Colwell, the general manager, is giving that place a lift. It was already really good. Now it's even better with different things that they've done inside the Baylor Club, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990 or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports. Steve Burl, former Notre Dame quarterback, and what it was like to be a part of that history, the mystique, the tradition, throughout the years he was at Notre Dame. And he's also a part of one of the episodes in that Netflix series on the Cowboys with Jimmy, Jerry, and others, and his thoughts on that back when he was there in 91 and 92. All right, it's time for the picks.
All right, so I guess we're starting off. We really worked this out. I guess we're starting off with Baylor and Auburn on Friday night, and I guess we're just going to go in order here. And my pick for this game is Auburn. I'm taking the Tigers to win in Waco. I think it will be a great competitive game. I do think that Auburn and the talent equation, people point to that almost like sort of like, oh, Auburn's just more talented. But I do think there is something ultimately to that, particularly in the trenches. And I do worry about the talent at wide receiver versus Baylor's secondary, which is now also missing apparently Carl Williams IV as well. I anticipate Sawyer Robertson outplaying Jackson Arnold, but I think Auburn's just going to have a little bit too much in the trenches and in the tank to stop them from getting a win in Waco. So I'm picking Auburn here.
I have liked this matchup from the beginning. One, just because they're played. That's the most important part to me. Whoever wins the game, it won't keep me up at night or anything like that. But I like this Baylor team. I like who they've been able to bring in the portal. Auburn is loaded, no question, but they have to prove it too. Baylor did a little bit last year, did not play as well as they'd like in that game eventually against LSU. Similar, maybe not. LSU's a better team than Auburn, but I'm going to take Baylor in this home opener.
Yeah, I'm going to take Baylor as well. I think we
are such homers.
Well, I didn't talk during yours. No, I'm teasing. I think Baylor as well. I think Auburn's just a little chaotic right now, and this being a road game and a big test, like I think it's going to be close. But I think Baylor gets it done.
All right, game 2.
All right, game 2.
Garrett is jumping in on.
Sorry,
we got SEC
go.
homer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm taking Auburn in this game. I think that the matchup against Baylor's secondary is something to keep an eye on, but I also think that their rushing attack is something that is really going to be a factor in this game. I don't know if Baylor's got the size to hang with them in the trenches, so I'm riding with Auburn.
Okay, there you go, 2-2.
All right, game number 2 coming up Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. Number 1 Texas, number 3 Ohio State, and as you see, I'm picking the Longhorns. They're on the road. And I don't believe that Arch Manning's the second coming of Joe Montana or anything like that necessarily right now, but I do think Texas plays really well in games like this. They are a team that seems to prime themselves up and gear themselves up pretty well for big-time regular season, early mega matchups like this one. And I do think that there are a lot of questions with Ohio State and just the talent dump off. Now, Texas had a big talent dump as well, including their very own quarterback. So I think you're kind of splitting hairs almost with this game. A shocking outcome would be either one winning by double digits or going deep into the double digits. I would be blown away if either one of them were to smack the other one around, because I do think these are two teams in Texas' case that I think we're talking about in the playoff, and most likely in Ohio State's case as well. So I think this could very well be a rematch at some point in the playoffs, but I'm buying the juice that's coming out of Austin right now, and I don't know that they win because of Arch Manning, but I think he'll play well and embrace the big atmosphere, and I think Texas just typically performs well in games like this in the regular season.
They have been historically, Notre Dame has this history too of breaking streaks, winning streaks, home field winning streaks, whatever type of streaks. They do play in big games. Even when they were average, they play in big games. I just think that they have more weapons. No one else is like Jeremiah Smith. I get that, but I just think they have more weapons. I think that Sarkisian is just such a great play caller, and Ohio State's got to figure that out with the change in coordinators. I take Texas. We remember the last team that among the Power Four that lost a season-opening game was Ohio State, like in 1999. That's a streak, and I think Texas breaks that streak.
I think I'm going to stick with my pick. I said a couple of weeks ago that I think Ohio State's going to go 9-3 this year. I think they've got a lot of transition. I think they've got some tough games in front of them, the teams that are maybe a little further ahead than they are. I think Texas is one of those. And I think that the Texas is more ready to go. And I think this comes down to experienced coordinators versus inexperienced coordinators. And Texas has the advantage in what will be a great game. But I think Texas just has too much for Ohio State right now. If you look at that defense, Caleb Downs is back, a couple of the other guys, but pretty much the whole front seven is gone. That was really, really good college football players, and all of them in the NFL right now. So absolutely, I think that they'll be good. It's Ohio State. Their down years are not down years by 99% of the college football standards, but I do think that this is their first loss. So,
all right, Texas and Ohio State. Garrett?
Yeah, I just think that Texas is the better team in this matchup. I don't trust Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator. I think Julian Sayin being a freshman quarterback against this Texas defense is going to be a factor. Even though Ohio State's at home, I think Texas gets the dub.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, we're on screensaver here. Oh, God. Thanks, guys. Okay.
All right.
So game number 3, Florida State and Alabama. And I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide, like I think most of the rest of the country is in this one. FSU, just a lot of questions coming out of last year. I don't necessarily love Castellanos either. I think he's a fine player, but I don't think it's like going and grabbing Carson Beck out of the portal and I know people have questions about him, but just one of the bigger names. He's a name, but I don't think he's like the high level elite blue chip type of a guy. So I'm not buying that being like this some game changer, although compared to who they had last year, I mean, it very well could be and better be compared to the quarterback play they got last year. But I like what Alabama has with year 2 under Kalen DeBoer. I think they're going to have their ducks in a row. I think they've got a good, solid quarterback and 2 teams who are very, very talented. But I just believe a bit more in what I know about Alabama versus what I don't know about Florida State.
I'm really intrigued by how well and how much more, efficient they'll be in year 2 with DeBoer. I've got Alabama. I mean, I always said this. Florida State's probably my second favorite college football program of all time, always was. But yeah, they're kind of in a bubble space right now. Not sure exactly who they are. Alabama knows who they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Florida State will avail themselves better than most people think in this game. I just don't think that they have played together enough to beat a team like Alabama. And Thomas Castellanos is the poor man's Diego Pavia. Like, I think that's what he is. Until he proves otherwise, that's what he is. And look, I'll take the poor man's Diego Pavia over the disaster that was last year. But this is a whole new ball game for Mike Norvell coming off of 2-10. I think you're going to see some players on Florida State that make some big plays. I just don't know if they can combat the depth of Alabama right off the bat. But I do think that they will avail themselves well. And I hope I am dead wrong on this. And I hope that, somehow Mike Norvell pulled this super team out of the portal once again. But, I mean, I'm not expecting lightning to strike twice.
Garrett?
No, I think in this matchup, I think having Ryan Grubb back for it with Kalen DeBoer as his offensive coordinator is going to be something to keep an eye on in this game. I also think Alabama's depth is just better than Florida State's. I think the Seminoles will be better this year. Obviously, it's hard to go worse than 2-10. But I don't like Thomas Castellanos as a quarterback. I don't like how everything unfolded with him at Boston College, and I don't necessarily think this is the best transition for him going over and taking over for Florida State.
All right, the game's in Tallahassee, Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday, and then Craig Smoak, a banger.
This is definitely a banger, and I did go Clemson. I debated heavily. I was really pulling in LSU's direction there for a little while, but man, it's hard not to like both teams. I do think Clemson just kind of seems to be set up to be one of those teams that we're most certainly talking about at the end of the year. And if we're not, then it would be shocking. I don't think it would be shocking if we're not talking about LSU at the end of the year. I think that they could very well be a team that's in that conversation. And I actually think LSU's maybe being a little bit underrated ultimately, if that's possible. But I think the hype behind Clemson is legit. Klubnik found his magic last year, and I think he's going to lead the charge in a very impressive way this season. If he's not in New York at the end of the season or somebody from that offense, I think that would be surprising because I think Klubnik just kind of figured it all out last year, and I think that bodes really, really well for the South Carolina State Tigers, not the Louisiana State Tigers. But yeah, give me Clemson and all the mojo and momentum. But I did think on this one pretty long and hard.
I don't know what game it was, but I just remember watching highlights, and Clemson was trailing, and Cubelic took off. And it was a long, long touchdown run. And it seems like from that point on, everything for him became even easier. Maybe it was just a confidence thing. I have Clemson winning. I don't know if they're going to play for the national championship. I know that they're really, really good, but I have Clemson winning this game. I like everything about them.
Yeah, I really want to pick LSU. I really do. It's a huge win on the road, but Brian Kelly hasn't won an opener yet. And look, they're not afraid to play big-time openers, whether it's Notre Dame or Florida State or now Clemson in the fake Death Valley. I did that for you, Garrett. But I think with what Clemson has coming back, that defensive line, it's just going to be too tough. It's a very tough place to play. Clemson, barely loses at home. And I think Dabo has maybe gotten a little bit of his juice back, mostly because, there's nothing that fuels him more than spite. And for a lot of people that said he lost it, I'm probably in that group a little bit. I'm definitely in that group. He's gonna probably have one of those seasons where it's like I didn't lose anything. Here we are back again being Clemson. So yeah, I'm taking the orange kitties here and not the yellow kitties.
For me, I think that I just don't trust Brian Kelly in these matchups. I'm with Cole Cubelic, though. I think Clemson's the best team in the country. I think Clemson wins the national championship this year. I love Cade Klubnik. I love the talent that they've amassed around him. I think letting Garrett Riley finally cook with his offense has changed the trajectory of them. And there's something about this LSU team I don't necessarily trust. I think Garrett Nussmeier is an elite quarterback. He's not on the level of Cade Klubnik. Both these teams should be in the playoff, but I'm riding with Clemson.
All right. Next game up.
So here's the final game, Notre Dame and Miami, and I'm going to go Hurricanes here. I like Carson Beck more than I like Notre Dame, and now I'm blanking.
CJ Carr.
CJ Carr, yes. Golly, I was sitting there, multiple names rolling through my head. I like Carson Beck more than CJ Carr as far as the quarterback matchup goes. And I think Miami's going to be able to have some success offensively against Notre Dame. Now, that's going to be, I think, the real key, obviously, is can Miami offset what Beck's going to be charged with and be able to run the football effectively. And if they can, I think that that's going to be a big key for the Canes to take this one home. But, this is a great Catholics versus convicts matchup right out of the gates. And just going through these games here, it reminds me that we're in store for a real treat this weekend. So I'm super excited about this one. I'm not the biggest believer in Cristobal and Miami in general, because I just feel like most years we get this hype all off season, and then it comes to the season and they're pretty good to strong, but it's never quite the full return to glory and prominence. But I do think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be strong. I think both teams will be, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Miami, at least to start the season off with.
I didn't take time on this. I just said Notre Dame. I like what they did towards the end of the year. I know the freshman and CJ Carr. Well, Steve Burl, we'll talk with us about him a little bit. I just think they might have kind of like grown up and not kind of, they were really good last year. So I took Notre Dame, even though that game is on the road.
Yeah, I'm taking the Catholics here. This comes down to coaching for me. I think Notre Dame's better coached. I think Jeremiah Love's going to be really hard for Miami to stop. I think that their defense should be a little bit improved scheme-wise and maybe talent-wise, but I don't think that happens in 1 year with changing a coordinator. I think they had some misreads on talent last year as well, and so they've changed defensive coordinators. That's probably good in the long run. In the short term, I'm going with Notre Dame here and Jeremiah Love, and that the running game, the offensive line that they have, which this is probably two of the top 5 best offensive lines in the country facing off against each other in this game. I'm going to go Notre Dame in this one. And, Miami will have one of their biggest games ever here that they've had since they moved away from the Orange Bowl. They'll have a big crowd. They'll have a loud crowd. But Notre Dame, they do this stuff all the time. So I don't think they're worried about going on the road game one. I think they'll be ready to rock. Plus, there's a lot of Catholics in Miami, too.
No, I just looking at this matchup. I like Marcus Freeman. I think he's one of the best coaches in the nation. I think he's better than Mario Cristobal. I don't like Carson Beck or trust him as a quarterback. I think that's too much of a drop off. I think Cam Ward carried that team significantly last year. I think not having Xavier Restrepo back is a big loss for Miami as well. I like Jeremiah Love in Notre Dame, and I think they make a push into the playoffs.
All right. Is that it? Those are the games. We'll have the records posted. Andrew Valade, Brandon Rowe, and Garrett Ross worked hard on those graphics. Andrew, great job on the graphics. I loved them. Those are our 5 picks, and then we'll have the report card coming out when we not start the show, but when we have a certain time to get to it on Monday. So there we are with our picks, 5 really good games, and we'll see what happens this weekend. When we come back, Mike Hass, he is a 3-time All-American, Oregon State wide receiver, part of the College Football Hall of Fame. What are his thoughts about where the Beavers are, the Pac-12, et cetera, and more, and his career of overcoming basically not many people thought he could play football at the college level. He ended up playing not only that, but also in the NFL. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary and trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
I remember contacting Phil Marwill, who's a part of the National Football Foundation, about getting some guests that they have, Hall of Famers, those who are also a part of the Super 16 poll, which I get to. And Mike Hass joins us, former Oregon State, 3-time All-American, and also a part of the College Football Hall of Fame on 365 Sports. Mike, great to have you on. We appreciate your time. So, I want to start with this, and it's about the conference you were a part of in the Pac-12, which, as you know, has been shredded, and they're trying to get things back together. As a former alum of the conference, what was that like watching everything unfold?
Not great. You talk about a conference with all the history. Bill Walton used to always say, conference of champions. you're throwing 100 years of history away, and not just in football, but in all the sports, and all the rivalries, all those things have changed. It's all different. It sucks as a former Pac-10 athlete, Oregon State Beaver, being left behind to kind of fend for the conference. I'm glad they're trying to rebuild it and keep a name and keep it going, but it's definitely not what it once was. But hopefully they can build it back up to something like that.
So, what do you feel like? Oregon State, to me, has this really strong football history, this great fan base that's very passionate. It's tough to go play in Beaverton, all that, but because they're a little bit remote, I know that Wazoo has a little bit of the same problem as well. I know that you probably don't care about that; they're your rival, but do you feel a little even more stung because Oregon State tries harder than everybody else to get people to notice them, and now they have to keep doing that compared to the other schools that just got to leave and go into these bigger conferences?
Yeah, when we were part of the Pac-10, there were years we were right there looking at conference titles, things of that nature, one game away, making bowl games, pulling off upsets against USC. Had a notoriety being in that conference, and being left behind makes it really, really tough for Oregon State. Not only being left behind and having to rebuild a conference, but the way the NIL deal is now, you see a lot of some of the good players that Oregon State develops, which is kind of their tradition and history of developing players to be really good players, NFL caliber players. Then they, get poached by all the other schools. Kind of becomes a little bit of a feeder school. But hopefully, like I said, with the conference, we can hold on some more of those guys moving forward.
So Trent Bray in year 2, 5-7 a year ago, a lot of turnover, a lot of change, a lot of newness, a lot of unknowns. What do you feel like about the Oregon State Beavers heading into this season, and what are your expectations for what you think we will see?
Yeah, people always ask me that question. It's always a hard question just because of what I talked about, so much turnover when it comes to a school like Oregon State. But one thing I do know is that Trent will have that defense ready. He's a defensive guy. I played with him in college, good buddy of mine. And, we got a quarterback. We got the Malik Murphy, I believe is his name, from Duke. That's somewhere where we struggled in the last couple of years, I would say, even winning 9-10 games 2 years ago. But, we got a good, big-time, big-arm quarterback. And as we all know, that's the most important position in football. So hopefully that translates into more wins. I'm hoping for a bowl game, hoping for about 8 wins. It's kind of my projection.
I don't know if you know much about Baylor wide receiver Josh Cameron. I bring him up because he began as a walk-on, and then he became an All-American punt returner, and now he's probably the go-to receiver for Sawyer Robertson. Not sure how much you knew about him. I brought that up because you experienced that same thing, overlooked by basically everybody, to play college football and then become a 3-time All-American. Your thoughts in the journey, and what is it like to be a walk-on early on to prove yourself over and over again?
Yeah, well, congratulations to that young man. It's it's a long process as a walk-on, and I think it's even harder in today's games with all the movement of the guys coming in. They have a hole, they fill it through the NIL, so it's harder to kind of work your way up. So congratulations to him. But coming in as a walk-on is tough. Let's just be honest about it. You don't get to go to the training table. You don't get your books paid for. You don't get your school paid for. You go out there and practice. You're the last guy on the depth chart. It's an uphill battle all the way. But if you're good enough, you'll shine through eventually and prove yourself. But definitely a tough path, one that a lot of guys don't succeed with. But I was one of the lucky ones to come out and have a good career.
How much of that was the coaching style of Mike Riley? Because he was very much known as a player development guy, a player's coach. I remember when he was at Nebraska, and they're like, "Well, Mike Riley's too mellow. We got to get somebody," or Bo Pelini. They're just different. And so, what was it? Was it his coaching style that maybe allowed for a walk-on to have it a little bit better because he kind of hears everybody?
I think most coaches, including Riley, when I first came to Oregon State, Dennis Erickson was actually the coach. So he's the one that invited me to walk on my first year. He left for the NFL after 2 years. Riley came in. So that was a tough transition for me because I was still a walk-on at that time. I really started to build some rapport with the coaching staff. Eric Yarber, the wide receiver coach, really started to work my way to a scholarship. And then Riley comes in, and it's kind of back to square one, where I'm back down on the depth chart. And luckily, that fall camp I got opportunities. We had some injuries, some guys get suspended, that type of thing. Went out there and made the plays, and the rest was history. But Coach Riley's offense is a good offense for a wide receiver, especially being the number one wide receiver. He draws up plays to get his guys the ball as much as he can. So I definitely benefited from playing in his offense, and I definitely had good quarterbacks, Derek Anderson, Matt Moore, both NFL talent guys, played around in the league for a long time. Those things help as wide receivers, right? Obviously, you need the blocking up front and everything, but being in a good offense with a good quarterback lets the receiver have a little bit more success.
Was it frustrating because when Riley arrived, you had to prove yourself all over again because you already had the Dennis Erickson? He's the one that wanted to give you the chance.
It was really hard, really hard. I know that spring was probably the hardest time I ever had playing football. That includes the NFL. NFL's cutthroat. It's tough. You fight for your job. But to be a walk-on again after really making some progress with the previous staff, I was pretty demoralized, to be honest with you, after that spring ball. I was talking to my dad. We were out fishing. I was like, I don't know. This new coaching staff, they don't like me. I'm just, a wide receiver in the back of the line. Maybe this thing isn't for me. Maybe I focus on school. My dad was like, hey, go back down there, do your summer school stuff, work out, give it another go, see what happens, and we can look at it then. And luckily, I took that advice because that's when I really started taking off. Had a great camp, earned a scholarship after that camp, my redshirt sophomore year. Started the first game. We had a guy down, 100 yards. They moved me to the other receiver position when the X came back, our number one guy. Then had to fight and battle then, right? I had to fight the other guy that was at that Z position to get the snaps in the game. So I was splitting time, kind of, won that race, so to speak. Then had a 1,000-yard year. And then the next year I was the guy, So, it was a long process, a hard process, but, makes for a better story now.
Did you have the moment when they took you off being a walk-on and they gave you a scholarship in some kind of a team meeting? Did that ever happen?
Yeah, it was during a practice, actually. James Newson, our number one receiver, came into the huddle. I was playing on the other side, and he's like, hey, we're going to run, I think it was like a little fly swivel weep or reverse or something. And if you score a touchdown here, you get a scholarship. So obviously it was already set in stone before, but, they gave me the ball and defense kind of let me run in. And then, bunch of congratulations. It was a pretty cool moment.
Mike Hass, three-time All-American, College Football Hall of Famer.
It's good you didn't have any enemies on that defense. They'd have been like, no, I heard the rules. We're not breaking this off. But Mike, you played in the NFL for a little while. Just curious on what did you learn from college football, professional football that you have transferred to your professional life now?
Well, there's a lot of things. Attention to details, being on time. that's a big one. That's one of my pet peeves is when people are late. Just because, when we were in the NFL, if we were late to a meeting, we got fined. It was $10,000, $5,000, whatever it was. So being on time, attention to detail, doing the right things, all those things, life lessons, battling through the hard times. Training camp back then, it's a lot easier now. Back then, it was 2 days every day and, battling through small little injuries, things of that nature, never giving up, all those types of things that really are good life lessons.
Nike, and then you were at Pacific Geosource, which you said is now called Forta asphalt reinforcement fiber to help it last longer. How did you get into that?
So I, at Oregon State, was a civil engineering major. So I graduated with my degree in civil engineering. I went to Nike. I wasn't really using it. My time there ended. And one of my good buddies growing up started the business that was called Pacific Geosource that distributes products for the Florida Corporation. And he was like, man, I think you'd be good at this. You know how to talk to people. Obviously the discipline and everything with the sports background and whatnot. And I said, let's do it. So I kind of went into the sales role, selling these fibers that go into asphalt to make them last longer and, give these cities, counties, DOTs across the country, across the world, really more time before they have to go back and, do some maintenance to the road, repave the road, whatever it may be, making it last longer, being more sustainable. All those things will benefit all the users.
Do you go to a game anymore? Do you go to Corvallis and watch the Beavers?
Yeah, I go to a couple of games a year, I would say, 2 to 3. My son is 7 years old, so he loves going to those games and doing the Beaver Chainsaw and the OSU chants and all that good stuff. So we make it down definitely to at least a couple games a year.
Mike, thank you very much. Congratulations on what you accomplished and what you're doing now. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you a lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for having me. It was fun. Thanks, guys.
Mike Hass, again, 3-time All-American, part of the National Football Foundation, College Football Hall of Fame with us. And a nice, a little bit of a view from a guy that played at Oregon State with all the changes as well in the Pac-12. He was a quarterback and played at Notre Dame, ended up playing in the NFL for quite some time too. Steve Burl joins us on 365 Sports. He is with us, as you see on the screen. Steve, thank you very much for your time. C.J. Carr's getting the start against Miami, a road game. What initially is it like just to be a quarterback of the lineage and history of Notre Dame?
Well, I'll tell you, he's an old man compared to what I was when I started at Notre Dame. I was a true freshman. What CJ has going for him is he's a redshirt freshman. He's been around the program. And in fact, with what Notre Dame accomplished last year, making it all the way to the national championship, he got to see at the highest level what the demands on the Notre Dame quarterback are like, with what Riley Leonard went through. So I think he's ahead of the game, having seen that and experienced it from a kind of a back seat and not being in a position where there was any expectation on him. I think he's eager for it. I think he's ready for it. I was just back on campus last week because my daughter actually is a sophomore at Notre Dame now, which I am pretty excited about. I get to live vicariously, relive my Notre Dame days through her now. But the buzz around campus is very, very positive. And I think, for those kids that came in as freshmen last year, including CJ Carr, I think the expectation level is really, really high. And they realize, I think, how hard it is to get to that point, to get that opportunity. It doesn't come around very often. So, there's going to be pressure on CJ Carr for sure. He's been a high-profile recruit, high-profile high school athlete. I think he came to Notre Dame because he wanted to be in that position. We'll see how he handles it, but I expect him to come around very quickly. I talked to offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock just last week, and he was very positive in his assessment of where CJ is. He said, but, we've never seen him in a game action at this level. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to learn. We just hope that he doesn't make the big mistakes at the big times. And hopefully he'll continue to learn from those mistakes. He said one thing that I really love about him is he doesn't make the same mistake twice. So that's a really good quality in your quarterback. There's no Jameis Winston in him where he does the same kind of things over and over again that kind of drives you crazy.
Steve, has Marcus Freeman done the job now where, because it looks to me offensively, because they finally decided to go away from transfers and do homegrown with CJ Carr, but they've built the offensive line and the running game up so much, and they've got Jaden Greathouse, they've got other wide receivers on the outside that plugging CJ Carr in, or if Kenny Minchie has to play for any reason, that it should be a little bit slower to them than it would be normally because they are so good up front.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a group of Notre Dame fans just this past Monday night. We do kind of a preview of the season going into each opening game every year. And I had Reggie Brooks, the former running back for Notre Dame, on via Zoom with me. And we both agreed that what Marcus Freeman has done has been amazing. And it's very similar from a depth perspective on both sides of the ball, every position pretty much, as to what it was like when Lou Holtz was there and building his perennial national championship contender teams. It just seemed like I was there before the national championship run, but what Lou did during the course of his 10 years was just build a recruiting pipeline and an incredible example of how to build your roster with depth, and where you can use those rotations on defense, and where if you lose one offensive lineman, the whole offensive line is not going to have to be reshuffled. You can plug another guy. Maybe he's inexperienced, but he's an incredibly talented, smart, sharp kid that can step in and play and get the job done. I think Notre Dame has that luxury up front. I know we're missing one of our top offensive linemen. In fact, he was going to be the top offensive lineman this year, Jagusa, who broke his arm this past summer in a UTV accident. But we've now still got what I think many people are considering one of the top 5 or 10 offensive lines in the country. So the running game is not going to slow down. We've got Jeremiah Love, and then we've got several guys behind him, a really deep running back room where they're going to be able to keep all those guys fresh, make sure that Love is not getting overworked, so he's fresh at the end of the games. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to come out running the football. But here's the challenge, though. Miami knows this too. Miami knows that CJ Carr is an unproven redshirt freshman. And they're going to try to see if he can beat them. They're not going to they're going to focus on trying to shut down Notre Dame's run game completely, put the pressure on the young quarterback, and see if he can make those plays. So even though Notre Dame wants to come out running the football, they're going to have to come out, I think, throwing a little bit earlier than most people expect, because they're going to have to try to loosen up that defense a little bit.
Notre Dame, it's not like they have been barren. Brian Kelly had a great run. It didn't always end well, and of course he left, but it does seem as if Notre Dame is back. And I hate to say that because that's what people said about UT when they went through a long drought. But it does seem as if Notre Dame is now a major part of it, not just because of the name and history, but they are absolutely a part of the conversation to win a national championship. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm jealous. I would have loved to have been part of one of those teams. Unfortunately, with Jerry Faust for 3 years and Lou Holtz was first, I didn't get that opportunity. But as a former player, we're very proud of what Marcus Freeman has done. And, you're right. Brian Kelly had an incredible run from a wins and losses perspective as well. The difference is that Brian Kelly alienated a lot of people along the way. And along the way, he never beat a ranked team, a top 10 ranked team during his whole tenure at Notre Dame. And, never won a big bowl game. He won a couple of bowl games, but none of the BCS, national championship type, trying to get into the playoff, the 14 playoff. He never won any of those big games. They always won 10 or 11 games, but the schedule was kind of set up for that. And it still is to a certain extent. But I think this year's schedule, opening with Miami, then following up with at home against Texas A&M, and we've got a tough road game late in September in Arkansas. There's some significantly tough games in there. It's not a gimme 10 wins this year. And I think with the young quarterback, that's going to be the biggest challenge, not having a slip up along the way. But this team that Marcus Freeman has built, I think is built to contend every single year. You're right. Notre Dame is back. They're getting the kind of recruits you need to be competing and the kind of depth you need to have to be competing for a national championship year after year. It's exciting for all of us who love Notre Dame.
Did they win it the year after you left?
No. My first season was the 86 season.
Okay.
And then 87 was Tim Brown's senior year.
Okay.
They went to the Cotton Bowl, and I think lost to, I think it was Texas A&M.
In 87. Yep, they did. Yep.
I think that's what was the year Notre Dame took it with Tony Rice and won the national championship.
So, okay. So at least you had 2 years of gap, so you didn't have as much FOMO, because that's got to be I thought
Was
about
it?
like Peyton Manning in Tennessee, like he leaves, T. Martin comes in, first dang year, gets it.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's, as you know, it's a little more to it than just plugging in a new quarterback. And but yeah, I mean, I had that 1 year between, so it wasn't like as soon as I left, they won the national championship. I will tell you this: Lou Holtz gives my senior class, and he, to this day, he gives our class, the class of '87, but the '86 football season, credit for getting the program turned around and heading in the right direction by just buying into what he was selling and to his style of play. And by the time we finished that season, my senior year, Lou's first year, he felt we could play with anybody in the country. We just hadn't quite learned how to get over the hump as far as winning those close games at the end of the game. And obviously, over the next couple of years, they figured that out.
Steve, you were part of the NFL for quite some time. You were a part of the Carolina Panthers, that 96 team that played for the championship. What a run that was. You ended up beating Dallas and almost like the end of their dynasty in that playoff game. Your thoughts about you in 91 and leading Dallas? It was really kind of like burst through the bubble. Troy was hurt, and you had a hell of a run. And did you see them building towards what they were about to become?
Well, you know, that documentary that just dropped last week on Netflix, it's the Gambler and its Cowboys. Yeah, it does a great job of documenting all that stuff. The second episode is the one where they get into the 1991 season, where I literally was traded to the Cowboys week 1 of the NFL season to be Troy's backup. You know, kind of like what Kenny Pickett's going through with the Raiders and a few other quarterbacks that are being moved around right now to kind of fill out rosters. But fortunately for me, we got to the week 12 before I had to play. And, with the Cowboys, we were sitting there at 6-5. The Redskins were 11-0. I can say Redskins. I know I can say, 'cause that's what they were at the time. But they were 11-0 and obviously went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But Troy got hurt in the third quarter, and I came in and I really felt comfortable with Norv Turner's offense. You know, we had a lot of weapons, Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek and Alvin Harper, along with obviously Emmitt Smith, the great Emmitt Smith. But, that team was still searching for an identity and still hadn't had the continued consistent success. I mean, we were 6-5 and basically had to win out in order to make it to the playoffs. And for me, fortunately, to step in and have the team respond the way they did, I think Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson have always given me a lot of credit for that contribution, that run, where we won 5 straight games to get to 11-5. And then we went to Chicago to beat the Bears in the first round of the playoffs. It was the first playoff game the Cowboys had won in 10 years, I believe. So that year really started the dynasty for the Cowboys. They always do a great job of making sure they know that I was a big part of it. There never was any doubt. Even I don't know what your guys' perception was of that episode, if you've seen it or not. But
I have.
I get a little upset because I'm like, there was so much more to that story. They left out like the Philadelphia game when we were in Philadelphia against Buddy Ryan, and that was Reggie White and Seth Joyner, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons, Randall Cunningham, Buddy Ryan, all that stuff, and that was a huge game that really locked up our playoff berth, and a lot of other things that happened along the way. But then my kids told me, they said, "Dad, is this a Steve Burl documentary or is it a Cowboys documentary?" You know what? That's a good point. It's a Cowboys documentary. I'm glad that they got me involved as much as they did. They had a lot of current day interviews, and they had actually some interviews, as you guys probably know if you saw it, of me back when I was 25, 26 years old, same age as my kids. And it was pretty cool to experience it from that perspective. But at the time, yeah, man, it was huge. It got my career back on track because I had gone through a lot of real difficult situations with Al Davis prior to getting to the Cowboys, and to reestablish myself as a guy that could start in the NFL with that run in 1991, and being able to, wear that ring with pride and say that I had a big part in it it's pretty cool.
Did you know, and did you ever speak much with Troy? Because you know the story there. Eventually, when they made the decision, Jimmy did, to start you in the playoff game, we know he had a Hall of Fame career. How much of a relationship did you have with him?
Troy and I are very close to this day. I think the documentary, didn't play that up enough. He and I never had a problem in terms of understanding each other. I made it clear in all the interviews I did at the time, hey, I was brought here to do what I'm doing. I'm Troy's backup. I think I'm a starting quarterback, but my job is to step in when Troy's not able to go. And I always made it clear that I understood that role. Of course, I wanted to play, but it wasn't. I didn't want it to be at his expense. But obviously, as a backup quarterback, you're looking for an opportunity any way you can. And he knew that I was just doing what was asked. And the frustrating part for him, when he wanted to come back in, when he was healthy, those last few weeks, he went up to Jimmy and said, hey, I'm ready. I thought I was going to be the guy when I'm healthy. And Jimmy said, well, Troy, you were 6-5. Steve's 4-0. I mean, we're going to stay with him. Sorry. And Jimmy made it clear, his comment in that episode, he said, I don't care about anybody's feelings. Mm-hmm. I'm going with what I think is going to give us the best chance to win. Now, if we struggled in one of those last two regular season games or in the playoff game, he would have not hesitated to go to Troy. We all know that. Troy was healthy. But the fact that the team was responding, playing well, we were winning, we were in control of those games, I think that's why Jimmy stuck with me.
And I think I think it lit a fire under Troy for the future seasons to find out what he was missing from that. As a lifelong Cowboy fan, believe me, I haven't heard anything in the documentary that I didn't know about, but I know more about it now. It's really well done. Now you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you're still with Compass. You took over for my former podcast partner, Danny White. I used to do a podcast with Danny on the Cowboys. What do you think about this year's Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer and all this? It feels like it's a bit of a moving target right now, trying to figure them out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think anybody really confidently can say one way or another, what we expect out of this team. A lot of people credit what happened last year to Dak being hurt for half the season, but I remind him, I'm like, listen, Dak was 3-5 and having his worst season as a starting quarterback when he got hurt last year. So he was as big a part of the problem as anybody else. The defense obviously was horrible the first half of the season last year, and even a little bit into the second half of the season. They played better toward the end of the year, but now having with the Micah Parsons stuff going on right now, not having your best player guaranteed to be ready to go is, unless something's happened that I haven't heard of today, that's an unsettling position. But I'm fully confident that's going to be taken care of, and he'll be out there ready to roll. But it's going to fall squarely on Dak. And, Brian Schottenheimer, obviously unproven as a head coach. His impact will, it'll reveal itself as the season goes along, how he handles himself through the ups and downs of a season, his clock management during the course of a game. We're going to see how he is at that kind of stuff. I do know they want to get back to running the football a little bit more, with the rotation of running backs there. I don't know how that's going to really work out. I personally think Javonte Williams is going to get the first shot at it, and I'm excited to see how he does. But there's going to be 2 or 3 other guys in there mixed in. You got, Jaden Blue and potentially Miles Sanders as well. So we'll see how it all works out. The bottom line is it's going to come down to Dak Prescott. It always does. Your franchise quarterback has got to step up in big games and play well. And unfortunately, that's been the question mark for Dallas throughout Dak's career is, he seems to not play well in the biggest games. And even though he has incredible stats, incredible numbers, wins a lot of games, the big games, he hasn't really stepped up to get him over the hump. And I think that's the big challenge for him and the Cowboys.
Steve, great to see you. Thank you very much for your time, storytelling, and all the what you did, the history of Notre Dame. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck.
You got it, guys. Thanks. Anytime.
Steve Burl, former Notre Dame quarterback, and also Seattle, Dallas, ended up with Carolina. How interesting is that? He helped get the Cowboys over the hump with that stretch where he was 5-0, and then won the playoff game, then lost the next week to Detroit, who lost to Washington. And then in 96, he's on a team that beats Dallas and knocks them out of the playoffs, when that team that had a lot of off-the-field issues that started to creep in with Irvin and Eric Williams, among many others. All right, that's it with the guest with Steve Burl. We appreciate him. When we come back, a couple of nuggets to close out the show, plus around the corner with Paul Catalina's top 5 and Andrew Valade with his poll results. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, just got this from a text from Ted Teague, and here we go. They just came off a phenomenal weekend, kicking off the Labor Day sales, which I know Labor Day is on Monday, but the Labor Day sales fiasco, which is obviously August, and now you start the month of September on Monday. Exceptional deals available. 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo X, $35,326. Adaptive cruise control, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, automatic climate control, backup camera, blind spot monitor, forward collision warning, and also power sunroof, park assist, and keyless entry. The 2025 Dodge Hornet GT all-wheel drive, $29,375. All-wheel drive, adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning, Apple Play, Android Auto, blind spot monitor, backup camera, park assist, push start, and Wi-Fi hotspot. All of those available, those two, the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo X, $35,326, and the Dodge Hornet GT all-wheel drive, the 2025 for $29,375. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, as we are halfway through this final hour. I will be out tomorrow with high school football, just a half hour or so south of Waco. High school football in Texas opens up tomorrow. And then back on Friday, of course, Friday also the opening game, Auburn at Baylor. So Open Doors, they are heavily involved in the NIL and, of course, a lot of different things as far as revenue to athletes in college sports. Football, of course, gets most of the attention. This is a graph, and we'll kind of go over this a little bit. One, they released a report ahead of the college season that's already pretty much underway, but revenue sharing dollars allocated, and the Big 12, with no surprise, the highest percentage allocated is, of course, the quarterback position. And the Big 12 among the quarterback position with the highest percentage among the four power conferences at 23.1%.
Yeah, this chart doesn't surprise me at all. Any of the numbers, I was interested to see, what positions that you can go bargain basement for. Like you don't have to pay a lot. Tight ends, linebackers, and DB. Well, it depends. Yeah, it's different. Like the ACC doesn't really value DBs all that much, as where the other three conferences do.
They're not in double digits. All the other ones, 13, 14%.
Yeah, they don't like linebackers, tight ends, and defensive backs as much in the ACC. So,
no one really likes the tight end.
No, nobody really likes the tight end.
Isn't that crazy, though, that the Big 12 has the highest percentage? It's not much, but it's the highest percentage, and they're the ones known for being it used to be the constant wide open, and we saw that's not the case with K-State, Iowa State.
I was also interested to see that running backs are lower percentage, although it's all relatively like the ACC, Big 10, and Big 12 are all relatively the same, but the SEC at 7.6%, and that's kind of strange when you think about all the big-time running backs you would think of in the SEC, and maybe it's just because they get so many young guys. That's good, but that's a smaller part of their overall rev share budget that was a little surprising to me.
If you look at the SEC and you think about who they are, money. Yes, the quarterback position is won at wide receiver, but look at that where the games are won. On the offensive line, the defensive line at linebacker, that's where they have dudes. Not that they don't have them at other positions, but that's where they usually separate themselves, or they've tried to. The Big Ten with a nice chunk too, but the SEC with a large percentage, and a lot of it on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this. I mean, like it broken down in the way that it is. The income brackets was interesting. More than $1 million is less than 1%. Not even to almost up to $1 million, not even a full percent. But 9.1% from 100K to $500,000 essentially on this list. And it goes down and down and down. So I do think that like the freak out here by a lot of people about how much money these guys are getting when you're looking at 0.9% or 500K to more than $1 million total in all of this. So less than 1 overall percent within the margin of error, I'm sure, are making that. Like maybe it doesn't need to be hands across America for, oh my God, how much are these young kids making?
Yeah, 67% are making into that $10,000 or less, which there's going to be the exception when it comes to the quarterback or the spectacular type player. But
and this is just rev share. It's
this is how it's distributed by these four conferences.
It's not NIL in addition to that.
I would think the NIL would be might be flipped around.
I would think it'd be a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we are with the budget, the revenue sharing budget allocations across those four major conferences. The highest percentage the quarterbacks in the Big 12. Not a surprise when you think about who they had coming back this year at the quarterback position. All right. By the way, Andrea Cameron, Josh's mom, when we were having the segment with Mike Hass of Oregon State about being a walk-on, we mentioned Josh. She's watching the show. Good to see you. And she goes, walk-on family. So walk-on nation. Thank you for being a part of the show and posting today in the chat room.
We had another famous walk-on yesterday, Matt Rule.
Yes.
He was a walk-on at Penn State.
Yeah, absolutely. I still can't get over how he came on the show yesterday.
Yeah, I kind of need to work on that. Probably need to be a little bit more careful about just not knowing how they're quite ready to roll, and just live miking is
the live mic, the camera. That's something that but the
y'all
live
looking at
mic,
me like I'm crazy.
The live mic scared the hell out of me for about 10 seconds in case he says something he doesn't need to say.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Was you're looking at me like I'm insane or something. But I was a little bit worried that we're going to get him in trouble. Not that he's going to say something that's going to be super bad or anything like that. I'm sure we'd have heard it if he was rolling around the offices in Nebraska throwing out words that are going to upset people. But I mean that could have been a whole nother scenario. So I'm just saying we got to be careful with live mics. It's always a good idea to be careful with live mics. But thankfully that all worked out well in the end.
I'm just offended the way he said I was. My demanding voice or whatever it was, and you didn't have my back. You threw me under the bus with him. So I Coach.
I had to apologize, on your behalf.
Yeah, I went in full barrel. I was ready to go. I think it's Brandon's fault.
It's okay to accept blame.
I agree. That's why I'm telling Brandon he ought to. That's why he doesn't have a microphone to disagree with me on the air.
Matt said it. He's like, you said 520, and they were just getting ready.
What's weird is I actually think that right before we heard him talking, and then he flashed. I thought I saw him in on the screen prior to that, and so that's why I thought that he was ready. So he was not.
Yeah. Do you guys want to know what I think is the most hilarious story of today?
Today?
Yes.
Yeah.
So. On the heels of, or on the verge of opening the season on Monday night, obviously a lot of eyes are on Bill Belichick in North Carolina. He and Jordan Hudson have filed for several trademark on terms. All Belichick team, the Belichick way, Chapel Bill, and Gold Digger. Which seems a little too on the nose, and I'm a little worried if I am Bill Belichick's kids.
I don't know. I kind of find this to be almost like you see with a lot of things nowadays, of people just lean into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm totally a racist comedian. Yeah. And so what? And then you have the racists that love, they're like, so what? He's sticking to the man. It's like, I'm a gold digger. So what? I'm a whatever. I feel like what would normally shame some people, they now flip it and embrace it and weaponize it to their advantage. So that's what I think she's trying to do, is flip it on its head and take away something that somebody's definitely used against her in the past and probably will quite a bit moving forward, and twist it to where it can't really be used against you. Because I am a gold digger. And what?
Yep.
So what?
What's your point?
Like if you just embrace it, it's like, and so I think there's a lot worse things you call her, like escort or things like that people probably still will go after her for. I don't know what her story is. This is another one of those just quirky, weird things, like the spy working on his own, like lone survivor from Michigan, that weirdo. And that quirkiness, this is just another reason why college football is messy but great and weird and all sorts of things all at once, and that's what's so endearing and sometimes maddening about it. But there's a lot of characters out there right now, and Belichick is one of them, and his gold-digging girlfriend is another one of them. And I don't feel bad saying it because, hell, she copyrighted it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's one of those things that if you're at like the family dinner and they're like, tell you like, hey, by the way, we're going to try to trademark gold digger. Isn't that funny? And like the rest of the family is like, oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Did you say what she's using it for though?
Yeah, no. I mean,
it's for jewelry. It's for keychains.
Okay,
So like, that's kind of an important context to it, but it's for apparently merchandise. And you can see where they play that off as well, of the fact that it's jewelry, it's earring, it's gold digger, haha. And so, yeah, I'm fascinated to watch that game on Monday night with TCU. I think the Frogs win that one, but I just don't know really what to expect from North Carolina and how they look. So, yeah, I'm fascinated by it. This is kind of like the Michigan thing where I'm not super invested in all the day-to-day details of it all. I do not want to see her on my Instagram page. I don't care about what she's doing in the football offices. Like I have no appetite for it, but that's okay because hundreds of thousands, if not millions of others do. But yeah, she is definitely providing a little bit of spice, as I sometimes refer to, just things that are a little bit different or whatnot. She's providing some spice to the North Carolina storyline, and what would have been good enough, it was just Belichick. But you add in this, and it's like, oh, well, hell, now this might be an absolute train wreck. Now I really want to watch it because this is like reality TV all of a sudden. And so
I kind of forgotten about
it's
her.
got that sort of feel to it. Yeah.
I've kind of forgotten.
And they're going to have a show, right?
Yeah,
Aren't they going to be on Hulu? And then what they did, they signed a deal with Hulu. So they'll be playing it up for the cameras too, I'm sure. I just don't know how all that's going to operate and work. And so it won't surprise me at all if we get some story in like 5 months of, there are those in the North Carolina football offices that feel as though, I mean, we've already gotten that once. Yeah. I won't be surprised if we see it again, especially if they're not winning football games. So, yeah, that's a fascinating experiment that will lift off on Monday night. And TCU and Sonny Dykes have a big platform to try and go make it even crazier.
Yes or no? True or false, or however you want. They're going to look, North Carolina's going to look a lot sharp, fundamental, like the Bill Belichick teams, of course, veteran NFL players. Don't make a lot of mistakes, or they're going to look just like sloppy. Which one?
I mean, I guess I'd defer more to them being able to function properly. I don't think they're going to be some sloppy team. I think if that was the case, and that would be a massive red alert, 5-alarm fire if you're a sloppy football team after all this. So no, I wouldn't anticipate that at all. I don't know how good they're going to be, but I think they'll be functional at least to start the season. And we'll see on the talent level and their schemes and how all that works ultimately. But yeah, I'm not worried about them being sloppy. I don't think the players are getting distracted by all this jazz. It's just fun stuff for us to talk about, and it brings a spotlight to the program for better and for worse. And I don't think it'll have much bearing on, their form and how they're going about their business with the day-to-day X's and O's and all that kind of jazz.
TCU and UCF, 2 Big 12 teams in the first 4 games for Bill Belichick in North Carolina.
Yeah, I think I don't think they're going to be sloppy at all. I don't know if they're going to be as talented.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if they'll be good, but
my thing about them, I think, like, especially like how it's just like you watch, like you look at the talent on their roster. They did a good job of getting it's not going to be a totally underwater season roster for them, where they'll win some games, especially in an ACC that is fairly wide open after Clemson and a couple others. So they should be able to win some games in that league. I'm just not sold that their talent across the board is really all that great yet. And Bill Belichick only has a 3-year contract. So he has, a precious little time to kind of turn this thing around. Now, the recruiting's been pretty impressive so far on what they're doing. But again, this is also a program. And I think that, there's a lot of people that know this. They don't seem to be in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or if they are, they're not. But North Carolina's never done anything in football.
No, they've had Kelvin Bryant.
Lawrence Taylor, Julius Peppers, but we're talking about, we're not talking about, oh my God, the name a year North Carolina football team. We're talking about individual guys.
Yes. Buddy, they're not getting into the Big Ten for football.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not the driving factor. It's their alumni base, their size, their location, their basketball program, all the stuff that comes with that. I almost said education. I remembered who we were talking about, because now there's just the whole educational scandal that we have to remember as well with North Carolina. I'm sure at some point that'll dissipate from my head, but I was about to go, great academics. And then that story always just comes back to mind and revert back to that. But I think it's a fascinating storyline amongst many others starting off this season. And I do feel like, there's a chance it could turn into a clown show by the end of this thing, depending on how the results go. But if they start off and they're winning, then I think Belichick will have his iron grip on it. And just so long as she doesn't do something stupid, then it'll be fine. I mean, she's got to also understand whatever she is, wherever she came from, whatever her background is, clearly she has an appetite for money and the finer things, I guess, if you will. So I think she knows this is your golden ticket, girl. So I don't think you forcing the issue and creating chaos is really in your best long-term interest either.
She's also never been with him during a season when he's coached.
Yeah.
Yeah. He might have some evil and bipolarism that he not yet. Yeah.
I think he just she's not going to people aren't going to get and this is the case for almost all coaches. Once the season starts, the people around you don't get as much attention as they normally do.
No.
I mean, it's just the nature of the game.
Do you guys think that North Carolina, as we speak of them, is the East Coast version of UCLA when it comes to football history?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think that's
the
fair.
last time they won 10 games in a season?
It's in the late 90s, right? With Mac Brown?
No. We watched him play in the Holiday Bowl.
Oh, okay.
No. In the whatever they called the game in Orlando.
Russell Athletic Bowl.
Yeah, the 11-3. They were 11-3 with our good friend Larry Fedora as the head coach. They haven't had a lot of years when they've put up double-digit wins over their history.
Yeah, them getting a step-up invite to the SEC or something is not about their football success.
It's not at all.
I mean, it's not. That's not a
they have
driving
a great
factor.
overall athletic department.
You hope that you give them money and they can turn that into that, but they're way more of a basketball commodity and way more of a institutional geographical commodity than they are a football commodity. That's okay though. Like not everybody's a football school with rich tradition and history. Even people celebrating theirs right now maybe can only go back 10 years, or maybe they've got little pockets of time over 50 years, but there's about 35 of those where they sucked. So not everybody's a blue blood or meant to be just because you're a big school great at football. And I think North Carolina is one of those that I don't think they would trade that for the basketball success they've had. So that's perfectly all right.
Yep, it is. All right, so there we are with some North Carolina, and I did not know that the copyright part of it, but the gold digger.
Yeah, we get you got to have the details on it. It's like, they just filed trademark for gold digger. It's like On3 slaps that on the internet and just doesn't say, or 247 or whoever, ESPN, and it just says that. It's like little tiny print for a collection of jewelry and keychains. It's like, okay, well, the joke still lands, but that's kind of an important detail is that it's not she's just a charming gold digger,
it is. But again, like I said, if I'm the family, I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah, you're definitely looking at her sideways, but this wasn't the start of that. You were doing that probably a long time ago, not just now.
It's just like, I don't need another thing.
Right.
I just don't.
Well, now it just goes back to just hitting the bullseye directly and not even being shy about it. That's the part of it that they're flipping on its head.
I just think about the song, like, I ain't saying she's a gold digger, and she's like, no, yes, I totally am.
Yeah, no.
I get it.
Here's my bracelets you can buy on whatever the website will be.
I know some of those. We'll close it out with this before the top five. The Ryder Cup American team was picked by Keegan Bradley, who's the captain. Absolutely should be on the team. He has played incredibly well this year. He also gives you that kind of like that fire. He is kind of like red, white, and blue. When he beat who had been struck Fleetwood in that last hole, and he just he didn't pick himself. He could have, he should have. I think he earned it, but he didn't name the rest of the Ryder Cup team, which is of course coming up. In about 3 or 4 weeks.
We have similar brand partners, Keegan Bradley, and that's Flag and Anthem. Who brings you the top 5 is with Keegan.
Oh,
Bradley.
okay. Yeah. But he's a bulldog. He's an absolute bulldog, but they did announce it, and I thought he should be a part of it. But last time somebody it was Arnold Palmer in the 60s. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 and Andrew Valade and his poll results. This is 365 Sports. And Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco with a state-of-the-art imaging machine and a great price if you need to get part of your body looked at. Like I'll say this, I said this yesterday, there's a lot of you in the chat room that you also might be listening either by Twitter or also YouTube, but out of the chat room, have aches and pains and ailments. Like Kim Coulter is shut down right now after something like had a growth in his back. vertebrae that reappeared after they had been shaved down. That hurts me thinking about it. I've talked about my back issues, and others, John Peterson, others who have talked about it. If you need a closer look at what's going on, your doctor wants one, and you can get to Waco or you're in Waco, idealmri.com.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome in to Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by our good friends at Flag and Anthem. And I know what you're saying. That guy's one sexy son of a gun. And it's true. At least one woman thinks so. So, how do you look like me? Flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. Approved of by at least one woman. Key offensive questions for the big games this week. Let's dive in. We did defense yesterday. The Baylor running game without Dawson Pendergrass. Look, Bryson Washington is a fantastic player and will make waves all through the Big 12 this year. But last year, they had a nice little 1-2 punch where he was spelled by Dawson Pendergrass, and Dawson Pendergrass is a punisher in the backfield. Straight line into you. You will feel it when you tackle him. He is out for the season. How do they adjust? How do the young backs step up? They feel good about a lot of those guys, but it's still their first game, and we'll see how the rotation goes behind Bryson Washington, who will be the alpha running back. Number 4, C.J. Carr in his first start against Miami. We talked about Miami's defense yesterday. It's their first go with their new defensive coordinator. This is C.J. Carr's first start for Notre Dame. Is the running game good enough to protect him a little bit and let him ease into his passing game? They have some really good receivers on the outside, especially Jaden Greathouse, who returns for his third year. This should be a very good Notre Dame team, but how ready is C.J. Carr for the role of starting quarterback at Notre Dame, one of the highest pressure spots in the country? Number 3, Garrett Nussmeier versus the Clemson D. We love Garrett Nussmeier here at 365 Sports. We wish him all the best because we need a happy Garrett. Plus, you know, are we pro-Clemson? And when I say we, I mean me. I'm not pro-Clemson. But Dabo Swinney does have one of his best teams in years on paper. He's finally made some adjustments to the way he builds the roster, and he's got some dudes along that front seven, especially. So can Garrett Nussmeier be the Garrett Nussmeier we know? Can his playmakers can get open? Can they have some sort of GD running game? For God's sakes, you're LSU, you've got to run the ball. Clemson's got to run the ball. You've got to run the ball. So this is probably the best quarterback matchup, in my opinion, of week one when you talk about Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. Now, granted, the most hyped one will be Arch Manning versus Julian Sayin, but don't get it twisted. These are two guys with pelts on the wall that are ready to take the next step. Number two, Ohio State running game versus the Texas front seven. Quinshon Judkins, gone. Travion Henderson, gone. They've got a bunch of new guys in there. They probably feel pretty confident about them. But see that guy right there? That's Colin Simmons. He's crazy. He likes to hit people. He just likes it. He's already, put a bullseye on Julian Sayin. I'm sure he knows all the stats of the Ohio State running backs. He's ready to go. So can you get past this front seven, which has proven under Pete Kwiatkowski's term as the defensive coordinator to just reload and get better and better and better? And let's not mention, if you do manage to get back past him, you've got Anthony Hill in the next level ready to do the exact same thing. So can Ohio State run the ball against the Texas front seven? We shall see. And number one, the Arch Manning era begins. We've been waiting 2 long, excruciating years for this. Many Texas fans have long lamented the fact that Arch Manning did not start right away when he came in. They've had to build to this. It's like waiting for a sequel to a movie that you saw 5 years ago. It makes you impatient. So now he's your guy. He is the man in Texas. So how does it go? That's by far the biggest story of week one and maybe the biggest story of the college football season. We'll see as it moves along. Well, that's going to do it for us. Andrew Valade has been crunching numbers. Here's those numbers.
He sure has, and I vote every day. If I don't, I feel like guilty. Which Manning family member will Arch's debut most resemble? There are some of you in the chat room old enough to remember Archie and how he started his career. But look at this, and I love that this is the major number. He will find his own way, 63%.
He is different than, he may be a little more like his grandfather than he was his 2 uncles. And then he's more, Archie Manning was more of a scrambler, as where Eli and Peyton, you would not make that claim about them.
Yeah, he's a bit more of an athlete as far as fluidity goes. He's a more smooth type of a runner and athlete than kind of his. Sometimes, I guess, Peyton wasn't a smooth or very fast guy at all, but they more elusive maybe than given credit for at times. But definitely not what you think of when you think of like a dual threat. Arch is a dual threat, and so I think that's what's partly so exciting about him is the fact that when the pocket's collapsing or Sark just wants to make the call to keep it with his quarterback, they got a chance to break out a big play. And I'm very excited about this. I mean, we got a taste of the Arch experience last year, but this is clearly different. This is his football team. He's the quarterback. There's no Quinn Ewers and back and forth debate. So I'm very excited. This is right up there with how does Colorado and Dion look post Heisman and Sons, and how does Bill Belichick and his gold digger jewelry line and his girlfriend, how does all that function in North Carolina? And there's so many fun things we're about to find out. And this is definitely at the top of, I think, most people list the Arch Manning story.
All right, 63%, 281 votes. That's a good number. What do you think about college football, Brandon? What do you think about college football on Thursdays and Friday nights? Of course, there's Wednesdays, there's MACtion, all that. I've gotten used to it. I'd rather it not be, especially on Friday nights, but it doesn't affect me at all.
I'm fine with it. I mean, nobody's making you watch the game. I don't know why anybody would do that. I leave Fridays for high school football. I would almost bet you that of that 27%, 90 of that 27% is from this state, because that's kind of the overwhelming sentiment here, and that's fine. You like what you like, but yeah, I'm in the 48% if I had voted.
Well, it's not like this is a brand new concept. I mean, there's been weekday games for a long time. It's just that I think we're seeing more of them and more of the bigger teams that are playing in them now because of TV real estate. So I guess if I had to pick one, I would say love it, more football, or don't care either way, because high school, I respect the whole pageantry and everything that comes with that, although it's definitely a much bigger deal here. It's like an identity for some people versus in most every other state. So I can see where you kind of feel like your territory is getting encroached on. But Baylor Auburn is going to be awesome in part because it's on a Friday night. If it was on Saturday, it would just be the 6th or 7th best game on Saturday. It's going to be the game on Friday night. So that makes all the sense in the world for those teams and for others that have to go take up those spots, or that go and take those spots to get more of a better program network draw, more of an audience, and more that all comes with that. So yeah, it's kind of what the environment has created, unfortunately, for those that want to be traditionalists for high school football.
I guess if I wasn't a high school football fan, and of course in Texas so many are, and I'm involved in it, but that it wouldn't matter to me whether they play Wednesday, Thursday. I love the fact that I could sit down on a Saturday morning and just watch away, and just watch one game after another, multiple games at one time.
When I was still doing high school football with you, I hated that they played games when I couldn't watch them.
I did too.
And especially considering that the ACC was one of the first ones to have the Friday night package, and once or twice a year, they'd sneak my team into it, and I wouldn't get to see it.
Yeah, those are the games when you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
No, it's hard.
It's
hard. It's hard to do a game when you really love a program, and we all have ours that we love, and you're trying to kind of keep up with them while you're trying to do what you're supposed to be doing. All right. Brandon Rowe, great job today. Thank you, Garrett Ross, and also Andrew Valade. Thanks to our amazing sponsors and you, the audience, and however you are digesting what we do every day on 365 Sports. Appreciate it. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Good night. This is 365 Sports.